sounded their sirens and they played America the Beautiful. So Maureen was there and she represents the entire organization every year. And she was able to capture the audio file. She recorded Joint Task Force Micronesia Commander Rear Admiral Joshua Lasky, his remarks. And so, Nene, can you play it?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about, right? Our internet is acting up, and there's a number of things that I wanted to play to make this show even run efficiently, right? Otherwise, which it's unfortunate because I'm not gonna ramble for 4 hours. Okay, let me see if it'll just play on my phone. Again, this is Joint Task Force Micronesia Commander Joshua Lasky, Rear Admiral in the U.S. Navy.
And as events unfolded, the attack on the Pentagon, the towers collapsing, Flight 93 crashing in the open field in Pennsylvania, and the emergence of the realization that our homeland had just been attacked. Our commanding officer at the time, a prior enlisted Marine and seasoned SEAL leader, gave us our orders. Get back to work. Continue training. The best thing we could do was build readiness. We would be to focus on being ready, so that's what we did. For me and members of that unit, while we weren't immediately called to go, the horrific events that day would shape the next 20 years. For those in the audience old enough to form memories on September 11, 2001, you all remember where you were and your lives were impacted. And I'm reminded I've had the opportunity today of sitting next to Lieutenant Colonel and Dr. Mary Okada, who had their lives impacted that day and have clear, sharp memories. That day was another reminder that as a people that this island understand well, and this region know also well, the price of freedom is readiness. Whether December 6, 1941 or September 10, 2001, citizens, service members, first responders, doctors and nurses went to bed not knowing what the morning would bring, but they were ready. As we stand here today overlooking a beautiful scene here at the top of Guam, and we think about what lays to the west, we are reminded of our solemn promise. Our promise to our families, our friends, our country, our promise to be ready. 24 years ago in this day, thousands of innocent lives were lost, but that attack also gave rise to unimaginable heroism. While terrorism has somewhat faded from the headlines, we remind ourselves today that it is because we remain ready and continue to check the evils that, if left unchecked, would result in another attack. As we move forward, we need not wake up every day with a sense of fear or anxiety, but instead with resolve and the knowledge that our commitment to readiness will continue to deter those who wish us harm. And the pride in knowing that if by chance deterrence fails, that as we have so many times in our history, we will emerge from an act of aggression towards us united, resilient, and resolute. The attacks on 9/11 were meant to break us. They did not. Rather, the actions of our adversaries brought focus to the American spirit. First responders ran toward the flames. Ordinary people showed extraordinary courage. And generations of Americans stepped forward to serve in the years that followed. Here in Guam, we hold a special honor. We are the first on U.S. soil to toll the bell. The first voices in America to say, we remember. We remember the lives taken. We remember the families who still carry the weight of that day. And we remember the courage of those who answered the call. This is more than remembrance. It is a promise that we will not forget, a promise that we will stand united in the face of any threat. As the bell sounds, Let it remind us we remain one people, one nation, one America. Stronger than fear, stronger than tragedy, and forever grateful to those who gave all. Thank you. Let us go forward and always remember and resolve ourselves to preserving our freedom by committing ourselves to readiness. Thank you.
All right, there again. We'll just keep the slide on, because I'm just gonna, if I'm playing from my phone the entire show, we'll just leave the slide on, Nene. Yeah, just leave the slide on. Nobody wants to see the phone in my face the whole time. So again, that was Rear Admiral Joshua Lasky, the Joint Task Force Micronesia Commander. There you go. I think I got it right finally. Speaker Frank Bloss Jr. put out a release as well, remembering 9/11, unity, resilience, and the strength of our island and our nation. He said, 24 years ago today, our world was forever changed. The tragic events of September 11 remain etched in the hearts of all Americans in 2001. From the towering skyline of New York City to the shores of our island home here in Guam, though we are thousands of miles from ground zero, the pain and grief of that day were felt just as deeply in our hearts. Guam may be small in size, but our patriotism is vast. We remember the innocent lives lost, the heroic first responders who ran toward danger, and the families whose lives were forever torn apart in an instant. Today, we pause to honor their memory. We also honor the sons and daughters of Guam who answered the call to serve in the years that followed, many of whom gave their lives in defense of the freedoms we all hold dear. Guam has always stood proud and resolute as part of this great nation, and our commitment to liberty, security, and unity remains unshaken. As we reflect on this solemn anniversary, let us also remember the lesson that 9/11 taught us. That even in our darkest hour, we find strength in each other across oceans and across generations. We come together not just in grief, but in hope. We must continue to build a world where peace prevails, where compassion guides us, and where unity defines us. Speaker Frank Bloss Jr. says, I extend my deepest prayers to all who still carry the weight of that day. May we never forget. May we always remember. And may we move forward with the spirit of resilience and unity as one island, one nation, one people. Speaker Frank Bloss Jr. said, God bless Guam. God bless the United States of America. So I was talking to Maureen, right? Maureen Maritita, our Glimpses media publisher. And I asked her if she was in Guam back then. And she said, yes, she was. She was with Glimpses back then, but she wasn't the publisher. She was, I don't know what her official title was, but she was writing for Guam Business Magazine. And then she pulled out the November 2001 magazine. And the cover page is of the top 50 companies. But I want to get her name right because I know who she is. Virgie Avendano, who was reporting back in Saipan. So the two of them, Maureen was reporting for Guam, and then Miss Virgie was reporting for Saipan. And they did a comprehensive story. They wrote a comprehensive story on what happened on 9/11 24 years ago, on September 11th, and its impact in Micronesia. It's called Terrorism Strikes Home. The economic blow of the terrorism attacks of September 11 hit hard and fast in a Micronesia already flattened by the Asian economic downturn. And so again, this article was written. It's comprehensive too. 24 years ago, 2 months after September 11th. But here's the thing, though. It was published 2 months ago, or 2 months after. But they were reporting in real time and getting these stories and writing them hours, days after, and speaking with people that were in leadership roles in Guam and the CNMI. So it talks about how the region was already weak from the late 1990s, 2001 Asian downturn. And September 11th choked air travel back then. And they were talking about how they were just starting to see the increase in air travel and tourism arrivals until, again, September 11th happened. A Jonas Ogren, I think he's sales and marketing manager of a Rota Resort and Country Club, said just when we thought it couldn't get any worse, it did. Within days, hotels, restaurants, golf courses, airlines, tour operators, retailers, even mail delivery, and newspapers felt the impact. There was immediate travel shock, stranded tourists, flight freezes, and phased restarts. In Guam, outbound cleared on September 13, and special Japan airline flights took tourists home by September 16. Incoming visitors lagged because Japanese wholesalers extended suspensions until September 17. Japan Airlines resumed their Saipan, Osaka, Tokyo flight on September 16. Asiana on the same day. Continental Micronesia was still here. As a matter of fact, in 2001, they were the top business in Guam, Continental. So, Guam Business Magazine still does this. The top 50 businesses, right? Continental Micronesia, number 1. It has its own article on just Continental Micronesia being the number 1 business by Deloitte and Touche. So Deloitte and Touche is the one that puts this whole thing together. And it says here, during the period of Guam Business Magazine's 10th annual list of the largest companies in Micronesia, calendar 2000 for some companies and fiscal 2001 for others, the major engine of the economy, tourism, was sending encouraging signals. To be honest with you, Jardine, because I think I can handle this because it's a pretty comprehensive article and I'm just going to start pulling from it. If you need to call IT to come back and assist you, go for it. I think I can, I think just pulling from this article, I think we can make that happen if IT needs to get in here and give you.
I mean, we can try it. I have it all loaded.
You sure?
Yeah. You want to do a test run of one of your YouTube?
Yeah, let me hear something. We're sorry again. We're just, our internet is unstable, and so.
So we can do a test run on the first one, the 125.
Sure. Is it playing?
You know, as
okay. That's Senator Vince Bora. All right. Okay, so far so good, right? But if IT needs to come in here, let them know. Yeah? And we'll just keep these slides rolling while they're in here, you know, because I know they're very camera shy. They don't like to be seen in the. But I think it can work out. If we need stable internet, that's for sure. Okay. All right. So again, on the editor's notes on the top 50 businesses, again, This was published in November of 2001, 2 months. But see, this is, I know because I also write for the Guam Business Magazine Today and the Marianas Business Journal. So I know how this works. And so they're getting stories 2 months out. And so they're putting together these stories just days after what happened, having to deal with the impact, deal with the emotion, deal with some of the fear and insecurities of business owners and just people on the ground, employees, workers. And they were able to capture, I think, when I read the article, the essence of what was happening at this time 24 years ago and the impact that it had on their lives. Because I was just in school. And I have a different perspective. So the number one business in Guam, again, is Continental Micronesia. And it starts out by saying, how will the terrorist attacks of September 11 affect Continental Micronesia? Severely is the assessment of William Meehan, the company president. Continental Micronesia's projected revenues for 2001 are $26 million less than 2000, and that number is uncertain. Meehan says we're looking at operating through the rest of the year between 20 and 25 points lower from a load factor standpoint than we were last year. Prior to September, Meehan says 2001 was starting to look like a very good year for us. After the attacks, however, the airline did not operate for 4 days, and when flight operations did resume, load factors went to the drink. You don't hear that very often, that phrase went to the drink. As most companies surveyed reported revenues for the 1999 and 2000 calendar years, or for fiscal years ending in the first quarter of 2001, the financial effects of the terrorist attacks of September 11 on local businesses is not reflected in this listing. So when it talks about some of the cancellations in Japan and in Korea, about 25,000 Guam visitors canceled in September, 15,000 of those between September 11 and September 16. Guam arrivals fell to 71,280 in September versus 109,627 a year earlier. In Japan, 90,000 were expected for September, and that all went away. Korea advised limiting overseas travel. Korean travelers were diverted as well. Visitors declines in the Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Philippine market. Hotels were hitting zero occupancy on September 17. Let me see here. Rota Resort says the sales manager, it was the first time since we opened more than 5 years ago that we were completely empty. We closed the restaurant, turned the lights off, and went home that day. In the NMI, the daily arrivals averaged 1,368 pre-9/11, and then it dropped to 564 after September 15th through the 30th, and then dropped even further in October. Many properties reported negative 20% in revenue, and that's being stated as they were the fortunate ones. Hotel Nico Saipan, they had to close the restaurant because there were no incoming guests, and the guests that they had did not have enough money to dine. They went to the grocers and they bought food there. Nico, I'm not even sure if Nico is still there. But Nico and Saipan cut work weeks to 32 hours. And they also waived closing their La Fiesta outlets. I don't think La Fiesta's there either. I think it's their outlet store. I think it looks like Jurassic Park now, or Jumanji. No, like the jungle kind of took over the whole place. Yeah. Tinian Dynasty is definitely not there anymore. I've been to Tinian Dynasty, the casino in Tinian, and they were hit as well. Everybody, Rhoda was hit too, cut to 32-hour weeks. Hilton cut to 25-hour weeks for some, which was, they were contemplating layoffs too, but they went with the reduced hours first, and luckily they did not have to do any layoffs. Sandcastle combined 2 shows into one night. Turtle Tours furloughed, reduced hours. LSC services. That's where I still get my cakes. Yeah. ABC stores cut hours by 25%. Quiznos, who's no longer in business, right? Remember Quiznos? They were the Subway competition. Yeah. Yeah. Subway's still around. But Quiznos cut hours but still opened a second shop in Hagåtña on schedule. Right? But 24 years later, we don't have Quiznos anymore. The Guam shipyard rotated 216 staff and reduced hours. Mail halted on passenger flights, and they had a backlog of 10,000 pounds outgoing in Guam, 33,000 pounds in Honolulu. The U.S. Postal Service chartered cargo flights from September 15th to the 16th. Let's see here. GVB, GHRA, and the chamber also were interviewed too. The congressman was Robert Underwood at the time, and he asked to seek $85 million in direct subsidies. But he also cautioned timing and optics, saying this is a sensitive moment to ask for Guam-only subsidies. Governor Carl Gutierrez, was the governor at the time, said the Guam International Airport Authority would lower enplanement fees by almost, says here, by almost $2 million from 10.89 to 8 airlines. Oh, no, it's not $2 million, $2. So it dropped down to 289 to 8 airlines. Sorry, that's a huge difference. Guam Economic Recovery Council formed and endorsed a Japan travel mission. They interviewed JTB World Vacations, and they said people are not confident to sell Guam right now, and think this kind of mission is giving the participants the encouragement and confidence to send people to Guam. A Walter Diaz of Continental Micronesia was saying that free tickets for the delegation and fam trips for 60 to 80 frontline Japanese agents were being pushed so that they can see with their own eyes that we are fine here in Guam, that it is safe to come here. Let me see here. They created laws too. On October 4th, they temporarily waived hotel occupancy tax for airline crews. There were bills that would reduce hotel occupancy tax and abate gross receipts tax for firms staffing airline crews from October 1st, 2001 to March 31, 2002. When it comes to banking, rates fell. Bank of Hawaii, Citibank, they cut corporate rates. Bank Pacific says that they had a 5.5% prime, which was the lowest in 29 years. And the governor, Carl Gutierrez, at the time asked banks to consider temporary loan adjustments. And the bankers said that they'd handle case by case. Like I said, it's a very comprehensive article that I can just keep pulling from what airport executives have been saying or were reporting to the Guam Business Magazine. Again, how they were being impacted. There are also military posture and base restrictions that happened at the time. I mean, it's pretty obvious that there were going to be base restrictions, right? There were some canceled public events within the military as well. There were deployments to Guam too. Again, this is on the Guam Business Magazine's top 50 companies back in November of 2001. And so if you can get your hands on it, again, it pretty much takes you back. Even though it was published 2 months later, it's taking you back to days and how these industries and those that were managing the industries were responding to 9/11, the day and the days after. So it was a very good read. 2:37 in the afternoon, we will take the break. Wave 105.
Have wages caught up with prices? I'm Mark Hamrick with a Bankrate.com Personal Finance Minute. Even after years of strong pay increases, wages still haven't fully caught up with inflation. According to Bankrate's 2025 Wage to Inflation Index, prices have risen 22.7% since early 2021. Wages are up 21.5%, so that leaves a shortfall of 1.2 percentage points. This is progress compared to the worst of it. The gap peaked at nearly 5 points in 2022. Households are paying more than they're earning back still. Americans are noticing. Bankrate's Consumer Sentiment Survey finds more than half say the economy is on the wrong track. And one likely reason is their pay still hasn't fully recovered from the post-pandemic surge in prices. Is there good news? Perhaps. In industries like retail, healthcare, and hospitality, wages have outpaced inflation. But in areas including education, construction, and manufacturing, paychecks are still falling short. For more, check out Bankrate.com. I'm Mark Hamrick.
Bolt your doors, lock your windows, turn off your lights, and come with me into the Weird Darkness. I'm Darren Marlar, the host of Weird Darkness, every Thursday night from 6 to 8 here on Wave 105.1. Every week on Weird Darkness, you'll hear 2 hours of stories of the paranormal, supernatural, legends, lore, crime, conspiracy, mysterious, macabre, unsolved, and unexplained. Weird Darkness, this Thursday night at 6 on Wave 105.1.
Time is running out to join us for the first ever Run for Wishes. It's all going down Saturday, September 13th at the Leo Palace Resort. There's still a chance to register or volunteer and be a part of something truly special. Every step, every smile helps bring hope and makes dreams come true for children in Guam and the CNMI. Don't miss this moment. Make a weekend out of it by booking our Run Weekend Stay Special. Visit Leo Palace's Facebook and Instagram today for more information. And we'll see you at the Run for Wishes at the Leo Palace Resort.
When your company achieves success, it deserves more than recognition. It deserves a celebration. The Hilton Guam Resort and Spa will set the stage for events that inspire, impress, and bring teams together. From board meetings to year-end parties, the Hilton's dedicated team ensures every detail reflects your company's excellence. And when you book your banquet, enjoy exclusive savings on guest rooms. The Hilton Guam Resort and Spa, where businesses celebrate success. Call 671-646-1835, extension 5306 to plan your next corporate event.
Think you've got what it takes to win? Tune in every Friday on Wave 105 FM with Patty Arroyo for the Hilton Trivia Challenge. Test your knowledge and you can score dinner for two at the Hilton Guam Resort and Spa. It's brought to you by the Hilton Guam Resort and Spa only on Wave 105 FM.
It's the Guam Auto Spot Overstock Sell-Off, and our manager is absolutely crazy for dropping these deals. Right now, drive off in a brand new 2025 Eclipse Cross for just $24,995. That's $2,000 off the original price. Plus, check out our high-quality pre-owned vehicles, fully inspected and ready for the road. Get pre-approved online at guamautospot.com or call 478-AUTO to schedule your test drive today. It's the Guam Auto Spot Overstock Sell-Off, and everything must go.
The new and improved Chili's 3 for Me deal is here. Starting at $12.99, get a drink, an appetizer, and an entree. You heard right. You can get a Coke, chips and salsa, and an old timer with cheese for only $12.99. Only at Chili's. Great food and value happen here.
Hafa Adai, you're tuned in to the Wave 105 FM on the Brightside with Pauly Suba every weekday from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. and proudly sponsored by Sentinel Security Solution, Guam premier provider of professional security services, and also proud sponsored by Sharon Williams. The wet season is on the way and your roof needs to be ready. Don't wait for the blazing sun or the pounding rain. Get ahead with weather-ready coating. Be smart, be prepared, and ask for Sharon Williams. Subway. Eat fresh in just a few clicks. Order online at subwaypacific.com for pickup at your convenience or for delivery right at your doorstep. Order online at subwaypacific.com. Is powered by Good to Go. We deliver. At Subway, you gotta refresh to be fresh. And now here it is, time for your Real Deal Traffic Report. And now here it is, your Real Deal Traffic Report. We're looking in the Hagåtña area where McDonald's is at. Yes, heavy traffic is right there. I'm not sure if it's due to a traffic light issue. But yes, that is your traffic report for that. And if you move into the Barragata area, it's slowly picking up but getting there as well around the Super Happy Mart area. That traffic light over there too as well. Now here it is, trying to take a look at the traffic advisory we have for you. Motorists are advised to drive cautiously through the construction zone, observe all posted speed limit and construction signs, and carefully heed flaggers. And now here it is. That was your traffic report, a Real Deal Traffic Report.
Taseo, Giganteo, be my cradle, be my womb. Taseo, my misnapo, be the stillness of the moon. By the light, it's sky horns.
All right, welcome back. The Brightside here on Wave 105. Biba Webis. It's Thursday, September 11th. The Democrat Party of Guam, right? They have also sent a release. And it states, honoring sacrifice, renewing our commitment to peace. On the anniversary of September 11th, the Democratic Party of Guam stands with our nation in remembering the lives lost and the sacrifices made on that tragic day. We honor the courage of first responders everywhere, the strength of families who endured unimaginable loss, and the resilience of communities who came together in the face of fear. Even decades later, the lessons of September 11 remain clear. Violence and hate divide and tear communities apart, but unity, compassion, and shared purpose can hold us together. As we reflect on the past, we must also confront the present. Recent acts of violence across the nation make it clear that the work of building peace is not finished, and that healing requires both justice and empathy. We urge all of Guam to stand united in rejecting division and extremism in all its forms, no matter our personal convictions. Let us stand together against violence, even acts committed against those whose opinions and personal convictions might differ from our own. May we all lead with kindness, respect, and understanding, not just for those who hold our same values, but for all. The Democratic Party of Guam calls on all local leaders to join us in committing ourselves to a future where Guam remains a place of safety, dignity, and hope for every individual, not just those who share our values and beliefs. By standing together, we can ensure that love is always stronger than hate and peace always stronger than violence. It doesn't directly state, I think we understand that they're referencing September 11th and also the murder of Charlie Kirk. The assassination of Charlie Kirk. Senator Vince Borja sent me, I think he did send it over. So I'll read this as well. Senator Borja calls for peace, unity, and compassion in the wake of violence. Today, as our island and nation remember the anniversary of September 11, we are reminded of the profound pain that violence leaves in its wake. On that terrible day, America suffered an unimaginable attack. In the years that followed, we lost countless more lives in wars overseas. The weight of that tragedy is still with us, and it highlights why unity, healing, and compassion are so vital today. In the wake of the recent violence involving Charlie Kirk, I ask our community to come together in prayer. Let us pray not only for Mr. Kirk and his family, but also for the individual responsible. Let us also keep in our hearts all those in our island and across the nation who are grappling with mental health challenges. Violence that shakes our nation also affects our local community, reminding us all of the urgent need for peace, unity, and compassion. We will not always agree on politics, whether we lean left or right, but we must always choose respect over hate, dialogue over division, and peace over violence. I'm also calling on my fellow leaders in the legislature, the governor's office, our villages, to join me in putting our people before politics. Let's set an example for our children. Let's show them that even when we disagree, we can work together with respect, empathy, and shared purpose. Let us honor the memory of every life lost on September 11 and all who have sacrificed since by building a safer, kinder, and stronger Guam for everyone. This is Senator Vincent Borja, the Guam legislature. We can try again, right? So we're not going to play Senator Vince Borja. We'll save that. That's him talking this morning in front of the GMH leadership, right? We're trying to get him maybe $40 million. I saw a couple hearing from Senator Chris Barnett that they're looking at some amendments there on that special session. They're actually in session right now. And Senator Chris Duenas, when they recessed for lunch, they actually even postponed a public hearing. So we were supposed to get a public hearing today on, I think, 3 bills. But because of the special session and they resumed again, I don't think that's going to happen. It looks like they're going to vote on this bill that was sent down from the governor yesterday, right? Yeah. Everything's just happening so fast, right? So Senator Chris Duenas says, be prepared to vote on this today, even if it goes to the late hours. So we're tracking that as well. But like I mentioned yesterday, what we did not do is we did not touch on the very first bill that was introduced. Bill 1-38, and I was actually scratching my head like the very first bill that was introduced in the 38th Guam legislature, and it finally had a public hearing. So let's see here. This is Senator Tello Taitagui's bill too. And it basically mandates that they actually hit just the minimum. Just make sure that every time they go, or not every time, but when they go and discuss the budget, that $4 million must go into the Guam Cancer Trust Fund. It guarantees a minimum of $4 million and not less than 15% of the Healthy Futures Fund revenue for the Guam Cancer Trust Fund every year. So cancer services aren't underfunded by the annual budget fight, by the annual budget discussions. And I think I just said fight because, like, I didn't realize I even said fight, but it sometimes comes down to a fight. And if we're going to fight for anything, we better be fighting against cancer. So here's former Senator Luis Borja, I believe is over at Public Health doing wonderful work in cancer prevention, education within the public, with Department of Public Health and Social Services in cancer prevention. And so she's advocating for this bill, and she even gives you a little background on who has been behind this. People, she'll name names too. But we'll play that now. It's so you're going. I hope you can. Otherwise,
Is that the Luis Borja?
Yes, that's the one.
934?
Heck yeah, you got it. So it's the second. It's the second link, and you're gonna pull up.
Set to go.
All right, we can play it, and then we'll just play this. We'll just run the slides on YouTube. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to testify on behalf of this bill number 1-38 COR. Chairman Chris Duenas, thank you so much. Speaker Frank Blas, Vice Speaker Anthony Atta, Senator Sabrina Salas Matanani, Senator Shanka Matata, Senator Jesse Lujan, Senator Sabina Perez, Senator Chris Barnett, and of course the author of this legislation, Senator Tello Taidagui. Thank you for inviting me here. Senator Duenas Sidus Masi for this opportunity to submit testimony in strong support of bill number 1-38 COR. I do so not only on behalf of myself, but also on behalf of every cancer patient, survivor, caregiver, and family who continues to fight this battle every single day. My advocacy comes from a deeply personal place, rooted in my family's journey and strengthened by the countless voices of the community who deserve better care, prevention, and hope. Cancer is not a distant issue. It touches every family on Guam, like Senator Tello said. Whether it's the patient enduring the painful treatments, the caregiver sacrificing everything to provide comfort, or the family struggling to raise funds through, and we've seen it, the car washes, the food plate sales, the fundraisers, the GoFundMe pages. Cancer is everywhere, every day, 52 weeks out of the year. My own family lived this reality when my mother was diagnosed with cancer years ago. We did everything humanly possible to raise money for her urgent treatment. That desperate fight for her life is where my advocacy was born. Through that journey, I co-piloted a show called My Story during my time in Sorensen Media Group. Month after month, I interviewed cancer warriors who bravely shared their struggles. They showed me the courage it takes to fight not only the disease, but also the stigma, the fear, and the financial burden that came with the hearing with these three devastating words, hearing these words, "You have cancer." From those stories, I saw clearly the enormous disparity that still exists in prevention, screening, and treatment here on Guam. I'm usually not shy of the microphone, but over the years, I have been honored to serve alongside passionate leaders through the Comprehensive Cancer Coalition. From the days of Kavita Hemlani's chairmanship to the leadership of today's co-chairs Liza Lynn and Naomi Del Mundo, the coalition has been a lifeline of advocacy. We stand on the shoulders of giants like Rosalie Zabala, whose memory and activism still drives our work forward. But passion alone is not enough. We need consistent funding, resources, and legislative support to turn advocacy into action. When I served in the 34th and 35th legislatures, I fought every session to protect the Guam Cancer Trust Fund. I saw firsthand how time and time again cancer was overlooked in favor of other priorities. But cancer does not wait. It did not pause for COVID. It does not stop for politics. In 2020, when others fought their share of the Healthiest Future Fund, I fought to ensure that at least 1.6 million went directly to the Guam Cancer Trust Fund. This was back in 2020. Should we consider this a win? No, it's actually a failure because we didn't give the Guam Cancer Trust Fund what it was due. My message was simple then, and it remains true now. Our cancer patients cannot wait. This is why Bill number 1-38 is so important. This bill restores what should never have been taken away, ensuring that cancer patients and their families receive the resources they deserve as the law intended. Passing this measure is not about politics. It's about people. It's about the mothers and the fathers and the brothers and the sisters and children whose lives depend on it, on early detection, on treatment, and support. I'm going to add some names to the data that goes around a lot that really drives policy. I think of Rosalie Zabala. I think of Julie Duenas. I think of Braden Manley. I think of Carol Cruz, and so many others whose lives were lost to cancer. Passing this bill will not bring them back, but it will bring peace of mind to families currently fighting, and it will save lives in the future through prevention and early detection. I want you to remember that September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. November is Lung Cancer Awareness Month. Every month, cancer takes more of our loved ones. We cannot stop the loss, but we can act with urgency and compassion to reduce the burden of Guam's families. I urge you to stand with our community. Stand with the patients, the survivors, the caregivers, the advocates. Stand for life. Stand for hope and for justice. And pass this bill, number 1-38 COR. Sidus Masi.
There you go. Senator Luis Borja, right, who is a colleague of ours too. And so we worked with her over at Sorensen Media Group. She mentioned it, my story, and it very impactful work and stories that were recorded, documented through that series called My Story. She says cancer prevention is not about politics, it's about people. She said from the stories that they recorded in the show My Story, she said that she saw clearly the enormous disparity that still exists in prevention, screening, and treatment here in Guam. And so she says that passion alone is not enough. We need consistent funding, resources, and legislative support to turn advocacy into action. Senator Frank Blas Jr., Speaker Frank Blas Jr., and I've heard him say this a number of times, but he said it again yesterday. Government should only provide what the community cannot. And cancer and how it has affected us negatively, physically, financially, as a community, has disrupted many lives. And so the community cannot do it alone. It needs a whole of government too to assist. And so when they even look at some of other communities, they mention Saipan. They mention the CNMI, our brothers and sisters, are trying to mirror some of the programs that we have here in Guam. And they have not yet been successful. And so we've made progress in understanding that it's a fatal disease. It wrecks families. It wrecks communities. And so this government has created a trust fund. And throughout the public hearing, they talk about ways where they can find more revenue. Look into e-cigarettes and vaping and tax them. Because Terry Quabo, the general manager or the executive director of Guam Cancer Care, he says, don't think that people have just quit smoking. Yes, there are, but some have just found another source. And it's vaping, and it's e-cigarettes. And so, just like you do sin tax on cigarettes and alcohol, consider that. Senator Joe San Agustin has a bill, and they're waiting on it. I think he asked that it go back to committee. They're going to look at it, and then they'll reintroduce it. And Senator Chris Duenas is confident that it will be put in a future in a session agenda within the 38th Guam legislature. And so they're just tweaking some things, I guess, in the markup. It went back to committee, but he's saying politics is not getting in the way of that, and we should be seeing that bill that would introduce a sin tax on vapes and e-cigarettes. 3:01 in the afternoon. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. It looks like the legislature is ready to... They've recessed. They've excused the GMH executive team, but the work is not over yet. They are now going to start introducing amendments. They're going to be voting for or against amendments to this bill that the governor has sent down to the legislature to appropriate $40 million from the general fund to DOA, and then DOA will piecemeal these monies to GMH. And I have a feeling there'll be some amendments that just jumps over DOA. So we'll see. Be like, because Senator Jesse Lujan says the fastest way from point A to point B is a straight line. So we'll see. 3:02 in the afternoon. On the other side, though, I want to play one more audio file from the public hearing that happened regarding Bill 1-38, the very first bill. And here we are, September 11th. Or it actually happened on September 9th. So 9 months later, it finally had a public hearing. And so we'll play one more audio file after the break, after the CBS News and Nene gets you the Real Deal Traffic Report right here on Wave 105 Biba Webis. We are KGUM FM in Dededo, Guam.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Cammie McCormick. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk has been shot and killed at a Utah college event.
Maybe 30 seconds after the shot, people started yelling, "Run." I crouched down, and I just took off running.
University police have been going building to building, evacuating people. They don't have a suspect in custody. And Anna Schechter reports witnesses described lax security.
His own personal security team was there with him, but we don't know what kind of a periphery they had secured. Eyewitnesses told us there were no metal detectors, that they just walked onto the field, essentially, to watch somebody come up and debate Kirk, which was the point of the event. So very minimal security.
President Trump confirmed Kirk's death, as Linda Kenyon reports.
In a post on social media, President Trump wrote, quote, "The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead." The president went on to say, quote, "He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he is no longer with us."
Correspondent Weijia Jiang reports there have been many tears at the White House from staffers.
This wasn't just a trusted advisor to President Trump. This was a friend to so many people here at the White House. They worked closely with Charlie Kirk during the first administration, during the president's reelection campaigns, and of course now.
President Trump is has ordered flags flown at half staff. Trump was expected to speak with Poland's president after NATO warplanes were scrambled overnight to shoot down Russian drones in Poland's airspace. Charlie D'Agata has more.
There's something like 10,000 troops there. And the reason I mention that is because they're going to have next-level surveillance and security anywhere where there's going to be U.S. troops in any kind of harm's way. So they will rely on satellite imagery if they get it. They're going to look at launches where they came from, because there are some reports that these drones originated from Belarus, which would also be a first. And, of course, they're going to be able to track them. You know, you've had F-35s from the Netherlands who are tracking these drones.
President Trump's emergency order that federalized Washington's police force is expiring. WUSA TV's Marcella Robertson reports there will still be a National Guard presence.
The National Guard troops area deployment has been extended through November so that they can receive full military benefits. So I still expect to see them over the next coming days and weeks.
The former Justice Department attorney accused of hurling a sandwich at a federal agent in Washington has pleaded not guilty to a misdemeanor assault charge. The man who killed John Lennon, Mark David Chapman, has been denied parole for the 14th time. This is CBS News.
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Get renter's insurance to protect the things that make your place a home, including coverage for theft or damage. Visit Progressive.com.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial.
Visit mintmobile.com/radio. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. But not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
COVID-19 is no longer one of the top 10 causes of death in the U.S. More from CBS News reporter Christopher Cruz.
Suicide took the place of the coronavirus on the 2024 list, compiled by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Heart disease remains the leading cause of death in America. Cancer is at number 2. And the CDC says the number of deaths from both is higher than in 2023. There is some good news in the report. The overall death rate for all races and ethnicity groups dropped to its lowest level since 2020. Christopher Cruz, CBS News.
British researchers have announced the trial of a blood test for Alzheimer's, which is hoped to transform diagnosis of the disease. Researchers at the University College in London will assess whether the test could improve the accuracy of a diagnosis from 70 to over 90%. Health experts say early diagnosis is critical with Alzheimer's. I'm Cammie McCormick, CBS News.
Balanced, fair, thoughtful. Wave 105 FM.
Pat's Tinting and Detailing offers premier services from complete interior cleaning and VIP detailing. And to keep you cool, Pat's also offers factory, ceramic, blacked out, and base-approved auto tinting. For more information, call 647-SLAM.
Eat fresh in just a few clicks. Order online at SubwayPacific.com for pickup at your convenience or delivery right to your doorstep. Online ordering at SubwayPacific.com is powered by Good To Go. We deliver. At Subway, you gotta refresh to be fresh.
Hafa Adai Guam. Yep, it's me, the Guam Guy. And you can catch episodes of my podcast, The Guam Guy Show, not only on YouTube and Spotify, but every Friday at 11 a.m. on Wave 105 FM.
Hafa Adai, you're tuned into Wave 105 FM on the Brightside with Pauly Suba every weekday from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. And proudly sponsored by Chili's. Chili's Grill and Bar. At Chili's, more life, great food, and memories happen here. Code School of Guam. Learn, code, and lead the island's first coding bootcamp. Your future in tech, begins with us at Coast School of Guam. GTA, we start with you. Micropack, open at our Tamuning and Mall location. Make sure to follow our Instagram at Micropack671 and Micropack Inc. on Facebook for exciting deals and promotions. And now it's time for your Real Deal Traffic Report. With your Real Deal Traffic Report, we're taking a look at an Anigua area. Oh, wow. Traffic there is picking up and is coming straight down toward the Hagåtña where the Paseo area is. And if you make that right turn, going up toward McDonald's, traffic there is picking up as well. Please buckle up the sexy seatbelts and be cautious and be prepared with easy stops motions. Here it is, back into the show. But before we hit to that, here is your traffic advisory. Construction activities will continue along Route 10 between Route 4 intersection and Payless through the Route 32 intersection. And now here it is, your show, The Bright Side with Pauly Suba.
The views and opinions expressed in this show are that of the show host, guests, and callers. They do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff and management of Wave 105 FM, Glimpses Media, or any of our partners. As we strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105 FM, the sound of Guam. Enjoy the show.
All right, welcome back. The Bright Side here on Wave 105. Biba Webis is Thursday, September 11th. Our number 671-922-1051 or 1052. We're online, thewave105.com, as well as our YouTube channel, Wave 105.1 FM Guam. I told you, right out the gate, Senator Vince Borja introduces an amendment to just straight line from the general fund straight to GMHA, bypassing DOA. And so we'll see where we are with that. But let's do this, right? So Senator Telo Tadagui, the sponsor of Bill 1, she shares in her closing, she talks about that cancer, not just prevention, but cancer, the technology and the medicine to fight cancer has come a long way. She says now there's a therapy called immune therapy that's actually helping people survive, helping people live longer. But it comes with a cost, because even when they're discovering new treatments and plans, they do cost more. And so we'll play it's pretty emotional too. I did not realize, she says it on the record, I did not realize that she is a cancer survivor. I knew that she had some health concerns, but she shares that she's a cancer survivor, and at any moment it can come back, and she does not wish this on anybody. And so, here's Senator Telo Tadagui.
I just think now's the time that we can avoid that by every one of us supporting this bill and providing the funds that are needed for those who are dealing with cancer. And one of the things that we have to remember is that it's come a long way. Like lung cancer, now there's a therapy called immune therapy that's actually helping people survive. It's actually getting people who had cancer live longer. And that's what this is all about. But with that comes cost. Because even though we're discovering these new treatments and plans, they cost more than they did 15, 10 years ago. I'm a survivor of cancer. I'm one of the lucky ones, but it could come back. And I don't wish this upon anybody at all. If everyone in this panel right now stopped and mentioned somebody they knew with cancer, it wouldn't be just 1, 2, 3, or 4. If I asked everyone in this audience if they knew somebody who had cancer, they would be able to say at least 3 or 4 different people. But if we can talk about survival, if we can talk about, well, how many people do you know who had cancer who survived? That's what we all need to be doing, is helping those people survive, live longer, to be able to see their child walk down the aisle, to be able to hold their grandchildren, to be able to play with their children. That's what we're here fighting for. And we're losing sight of that when in 2019, not one single dime was given to the Cancer Trust Fund, not one. $19 million that we could have saved so many of our people on this island, but $19 million was not given to the Cancer Trust Fund when it should be. So what we're doing today with this bill is we're ensuring at least $4 million, the next time a budget bill comes up, that they get it, or even more. That's what we're doing. It's as simple. And it doesn't come out of the general fund. It comes out of a special fund. Now we have to remember that. Before I close, I'd like to recognize certain nonprofit organizations. And I'm glad to see that you're here from Total Guam and the Cancer Care. I mean, and with Cancer Care, but they had real impact. These nonprofit organizations had real impact on our families here. And because of the Guam Cancer Trust Fund, thousands of residents have received life-saving screenings and financial assistance and supportive care. And I would like to thank some of the organizations and their programs when funding was provided to them to assist our people with this deadly disease. And it doesn't have to be a deadly disease. It doesn't have to be a death sentence. It could be a survival if we all stick together. And I ask every single one of you to please reach out personally to each senator and ask for their help. And please go home and tell your other families that, write to your senators, tell them to support this bill. I'd like to thank the University of Guam Cancer Research Center for advancing cancer studies and community outreach. They don't just give money, they do all the data and the information that's needed. The Cancer Care Trust Fund also helps the Cancer Care, who's here, Terry, providing financial aid. Thank you. Patient navigation, transportation, prevention programs. Thank you, Terry. American Cancer Society delivering direct patient support services. Thank you. Aduda Foundation assisting families with outreach and patient care. Thank you. Catholic Social Services and other nonprofits offering survivorship programs, support groups, and education campaigns. Thank you. The Department of Public Health and Social Services leading the prevention initiatives and cancer awareness efforts. Thank you, Louise. The Edward M. Calvo Cancer Foundation, easing the financial burden of treatment. Thank you. The Guam Regional Medical City, Guam Memorial Hospital, expanding local cancer screening and treatment capacity. Thank you. Total Guam Foundation, empowering communities through cancer education and prevention. Thank you. And thank you for the hope and support you have provided. Now we need to do our part. And I encourage again, everyone reaching out to your senators, your families and friends, and being a part of making Bill 1-83 a reality for the future. Sijus Masi, Mr. Chair.
All right. So again, she says, how many people do we know have or has had cancer? And so she said, look in this space right here, everybody in this room, they all raise their hand. And chances are it's 2, 3 people that you know. And so she says that's what we all need to be doing, is helping those people survive, live longer, be able to see their child walk down the aisle, to be able to hold their grandchildren, to be able to play with their children. That's what we're fighting for. And she said we're losing sight of that. In 2019, not one single dime was given to the Cancer Trust Fund. Not one. $19 million could have saved so many people on this island. But $19 million was not given to the Cancer Trust Fund when it should be. So what they're doing in this bill, Bill 1-38, I think we're at like 170 something now. It ensures a baseline of $4 million. So it does not appropriate it just says you will start at 4 and then you'll go up based on balancing the budget. But again, like I had said, and not even realizing when they're talking when the budget fight. Yeah, I remember when they did not efficiently provide the funding that these organizations needed through the regular budget process, that they had to go back and reconvene in a supplemental budget bill. And these organizations showed up. They mobilized. They showed up to that public hearing. And they shared what they do and why they need the funding so they can continue to do that great work in the community. So again, it creates the baseline, ensuring that at least $4 million is going to be implemented the next time they do these budget fights. And I would say fight, I would use that word anytime we are dealing with cancer. Because we have to fight. Here's something else too. Something that I saw from the office of the governor that is pretty inspiring as well, right? 10 inmates graduate from residential substance abuse treatment program. The Leongarel Tenor administration congratulates 10 graduates of the residential substance abuse treatment, RSAT. I think this is the graduation that the OG Rand Kaufman was talking to us about last Friday. He said he attended a graduation, the RSAT program. It's a collaborative effort between Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center and the Guam Department of Corrections. The RSAT program, led by Robert Damas and Linda Holmes, provides incarcerated individuals with the tools and support needed to break free from addiction and prepare for a healthier re-entry into the community. Over the course of nearly a year, the program guided clients through recovery-focused classes, character-building exercises, and family reconnection. An RSAT group leader said, "This program saves lives, mine included." And this individual is an RSAT group leader at graduation late last month. Another graduate said, RSAT has given me a new beginning on a new journey. Other graduates echoed this message of hope, sharing how the program helped them build values, practice honesty, reconnect with their families. One participant reflected, RSAT has helped me reconnect with my family. It works when I work it, and I'm worth it. Governor Lou Leongro praised the milestone as a reflection of the power of treatment and second chances. Sometimes we need 4 and 5 and 6 chances. Recovery is possible when we choose to believe in it. RSAT shows us that with guidance, compassion, and accountability, people can change their lives for the better. I am proud of these 10 graduates for their courage to begin again. And I thank Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, DOC, and all partners who made this journey possible. I've seen firsthand that when we invest in rehabilitation, we invest in safer communities, the transformation these men undergo through programs like RSAT means they don't just have the skills to succeed, but also the values and mindset to contribute to their families and their island community. That's a victory for everyone. From the Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio. He said the RSAT program remains a vital example of how partnership across government agencies, nonprofit organizations, and the community can change lives and strengthen Guam's future. So there, again, this release came out earlier today around 1 in the afternoon, and I'm glad to see it. I think there was also a photo that was attached to it. Yeah, the Lieutenant Governor speaking to the graduates. All right, 3:26 in the afternoon. This is what we're gonna do. We'll just take this break now. And then we're gonna start pulling an audio file from this morning's special session. And what grabbed me, obviously, all the senators, again, in round 2 got to speak and question GMH, the executive team over at the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority, the leadership, and also Ed Byrne, the director of DOA. And so what are the challenges that they're facing? Why do they need the $40 million? And how are they going to spend it? And so, I mean, we've been paying attention, the electrical panels, the electric fire, obviously, the vendors need to be paid. They need to buy supplies, finding out as well the operational costs, right? But they break it down. Senator Vince Borja, they break it down very well. And this is not the first time that they shared the challenges that they face. But some of us need to hear it again. And for sure, the legislature needs to hear it again. And so we'll play the response. The responses. First, the question from Senator Vince Borja, and then the responses from a number of those in a leadership role at GMHA. I believe Jesse Kenga, who was the HR manager there. Yuka Hechanova, who is in charge of the finances. Ed Byrne, who speaks DOA and just knowing the challenges that GMHA faces. The CEO herself, Lillian Perez Posadas. Dr. Eusebio speaks also. And they all, they're dealing with the challenges that they're facing every day. And so they break it down, and I think it's something that we kind of need to hear again. And so we'll play it on the other side of these right here on Wave 105. My name is Pauly Suba. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Brightside. Biba Webis.
Many companies are moving slow on AI. Thank goodness many employees are moving fast. I'm Jeff Colvin of Fortune magazine with the Fortune Business Update. Lots of companies have invested money on AI, but in a recent survey from MIT, 95% of them say their corporate investment has so far not improved their profit at all. 0. Fortunately for those companies, however, their employees are moving ahead on their own, and they're not telling their employers about it. They're just using their own personal accounts with ChatGPT or other AI providers, and that is almost certainly improving productivity. As employees become more familiar with personal AI tools that suit their needs, they become less tolerant of their employers' slow-moving official AI projects. It's a striking difference from new technologies of the past, which employees mostly hated. Now they're leading the way. I'm Jeff Colvin.
Buenas and Hafa Adai, it's Damon Michael, your GDOE PIO. Make sure you tune in every Friday at 10 a.m. for our agency's Educuento series, where we give you the latest and greatest from the Department of Education.
Hafa Adai, Guam. Engage in a conversation made for the veterans of Guam with Johnny and Miss Bobby. We want to hear concerns and comments. Tune in every Wednesday for our new time, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Wave 105, the Talk of Guam.
Burger King Guam celebrating 36 years. We humbly ask for your daily vote on Pika's Best of Guam 2025. Vote Best Burger starting August 22nd through September 19th. Log on to guampdn.com/contest every day. We offer our flame grilled burgers, our new lineup of Whoppers by You, premium royal chicken sandwiches, exciting promotions, and your chance to win premium prizes this holiday season. Vote for Burger King for Best Burger in Pika's Best of Guam 2025. Burger King, you rule.
At Way 105 FM, we're more than just a station. We're your platform, your voice, your conversation. We're talking about what matters most to you today and in our future. And we want you to be part of it. Got something to say? We're listening. Different opinions? Bring them on. Let's talk, let's debate, let's connect, because every voice counts. Call or WhatsApp us at 671-922-1051. And if that line's busy, hit us up at 922-1052. This is Talk Radio for everyone. This is Wave 105 FM, the Talk of Guam.
It's the Guam Autospot Overstock Sell-Off, and our manager is absolutely crazy for dropping these deals. Right now, drive off in a brand new 2025 Eclipse Cross for just $24,995. That's $2,000 off the original price. Plus, check out our high-quality pre-owned vehicles, fully inspected and ready for the road. Get pre-approved online at guamautospot.com or call 478-AUTO to schedule your test drive today. It's the Guam Autospot Overstock Sell-Off, and everything must go.
6 o'clock to 8 o'clock every Friday evening. Join Rand and Jenny Kaufman for The Edge of Heaven, a talk show to take you to the fifth dimension where you find out who you are. What is the purpose of your life? How can your purpose be fulfilled? What motivates you to do what you do? What are you searching for? What keeps you going in your day-to-day life? What is real? Why do you care? Why do you work? Why do you love? Sponsored by Burger King, Jay Goodman, and Asmujao Community School.
Hafa Adai, you're tuned into Wave 105 FM on the Brightside with Pauly Suba every weekday from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. And the show is proudly sponsored by Sentinel Security Solution, Guam premier provider of professional security services. Sherwin-Williams, the wet season is on its way and your roof needs to be ready. Don't wait for the blazing sun or the pounding rain. Get ahead weather ready coating. Be smart, be prepared, and ask Sherwin-Williams. Subway, eat fresh. In just a few clicks, order online at subwaypacific.com for pickup at your convenience or delivery right on your doorstep. Online ordering at subwaypacific.com is powered by Good to Go. We deliver. At Subway, you gotta refresh to be fresh. And now it's time for your real deal traffic report. And now here it is, taking a look at our traffic report. Looks like the route going up towards JFK traffic is picking up there. Pretty much a heavy flow over there. And if you're looking at where Mangilao is, Mangilao area where the church is at, is also there. And I believe tonight is Thursday night market. Maybe that's why, because they're getting ready. That is your real deal traffic report for today at this hour. Hitting the traffic advisory. Constructions activities will continue along Route 10 between the Route 4 intersection and Payless through the Route 32 intersection. And that is your real deal traffic report. Now back into your show with The Bright Side.
I ran into this girl the night before. She reminded me of a golden shore. She was nothing like your average girl next door. She liked DVDs, tattoos, and Paramore. She'd say Hafa Adai, por favor. And I'd say sad dispenser too.
Welcome back to Brightside here on Wave 105, 3:34 in the afternoon. Biba Webis. Okay, so I'm trying my best to just follow along with the legislature, right? And so I think, and I'm still way behind. I'm trying to track, right? So they're on the amendments. Borja's amendment does pass, gives GMH the $40 million directly. Senator Tello Taidagui had an amendment, but she withdrew it. Senator Perez, that's the one that I'm on right now. It's an amendment that mandates that GMHA submits quarterly reports to the speaker so they can keep track of all the finances with GMHA. However, I see Senator Chris Barnett. I watched a little bit of Senator Chris Barnett in favor of that amendment. I'm not sure where Senator Tony Ada is on that, Vice Speaker is. And so I'm a little bit behind. I'm behind a couple minutes too, to be honest, about maybe 20 minutes behind. So if you're tracking it, you're tracking it in real time, then you're ahead of me. So let's just go back to this morning. So this morning, watching the dialogue between the senators and the GMHA leadership, we find that GMH spends about $213 million per year, but only collects $133 million from patients and insurance. This leaves an $80 million gap every year. Yuka Hechanova even, says it plainly when Senator Vincent Borja asks, what is the gap? And she says $80 million. GMH owes about $26 to $30 million to vendors and GovGuam agencies, the Guam Power Authority, GWA. DOC owes GMH money too, and they're having a hard time getting that money from DOC to GMH. Some of the supplies cost around $6 million. Travel nurses, $4 million. Utilities and health insurance premiums also for employees. The difference between, again, employees at GMH are, you got to pay their benefits too. They are government employees. And so if you're comparing GRMC to GMH, GRMC does not have to pay those retirement fees, the benefits that government employees receive, like over at GMH. And we can still argue, the argument is still valid if you're going to say, well, the amount of employees over at GMHA needs to be looked at. You can, it's fair to say one way or another that you agree or disagree that they have too many employees there. What else? Electrical system. The main panel is a fire risk. Costs 16 to $20 million is what. There's some back and forth there. So between 16 and 20, the IT network is old, slow, and weak. It needs a $5 million upgrade just to function reliably. Dr. Eusebio is also saying, we got to get the new iPhone 17 system out there. You cannot, if you have an iPhone 2, you can't upgrade it to the iPhone 17. You can't, what is it? The AI software that's in the 17, it ain't going to read it. It ain't going to understand it. It's not going to help you with your homework. So you need to get that iPhone 17. And Dr. Eusebio creates basically provides like an illustration, right, about he's saying, yes, it costs more, but if we have a system that can talk to each other, we can be more efficient, and in the long run, we can save money too. HVAC is broken and mold prone. They'll need about $1 million for parts, but much more is still needed. Other projects like the maternal and child health need to be rebid because there's no contractor that responded the first time they went through this. And then they start talking about the rising costs, and I think this is where we'll start. I will start with the question from Senator Vincent Borja, and then the responses from a number of the executive, the leadership roles. You're gonna hear Jesse Kenga, Yuka Hechanova. You're gonna hear Dr. Eusebio, Edward Byrne, the director of DOA, Lillian Perez-Posadas, the CEO of GMHA, respond to Senator Vince Borja's question. Okay, so you're gonna go to you're gonna go to the link, the first link that I sent you right after the phone number that I sent.
Just the 125.
You ready? Yeah. Okay, this is Senator Vince Borja.
The questions and just the response. I think a lot of the things that in my head, and as I try to understand, like, okay, how can we help, or what can we do, and looking at some of the history with GMH, or at least as much as I could find right on the internet, is that it seems like traditionally GMH has never really got the money that they've asked for, right? That would be safe to say. But then, I look at what you guys asked, I think in the budget for FY 2025, you guys asked for 72 million, I think was the ask. And then, or we gave you guys, 58 was what was given, or was in the budget bill. So we gave you this, it would be, obviously this current fiscal year, 40 plus the 58 would bring it to 98, which is more than what you asked. But I guess my question is, right, because I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, how can we get in front of this, or how do we solve this problem of, okay, you're never going to, it seems like you never get the money that you asked for. Historically, some of the stuff I've seen, like back to the early 2000s, like with the money to pay the retirement fund, it was like $11 million shortfall, which obviously just kept trickling over with all the additional stuff but I guess my question is, like, how, I don't know, how do we fix this? And what, maybe we gave you all the money today, because right now you asked for 72, or 72 was your request. 58 was what was passed. You're getting 40, which puts you at 98. Is that going to solve all your problems? Because you asked for 72. If you get this 40, and then the rest of the money in the new fiscal year, is that going to? I don't know if anybody can answer. I feel like that's not going to solve your problems, because even in history, in previous appropriations, you got what they gave you, and then there seemed to have been additional appropriations. And we're still here. So what, I guess, from a holistic approach and with some foresight, how can we, even if we gave you all the money, is that gonna solve all your problems? I know there are some things that we talked about IT. I don't know, is it legislative oversight? Is it financial? Is it leadership? Is it systematic problem? I'm trying to figure out, like, what do? We give you $40 million today. GMH is going to be good, and we'll never hear from you guys again, right? So that's where I'm trying to, like, wrap my head around, because we can talk about what didn't happen, right? We can talk about how much money you got in the last appropriation. We can talk about the money that you're about to get in this next appropriation. But historically, based on my research, no matter what we gave you, you've always had to come back down. So what do we do?
Senator, if I can draw your attention, there would be an opportunity that this body can entertain a policy change related to elevating GMHA among other like autonomous agencies. This is driven by Title 5, Chapter 22, and describes the exceptions to the Central Accounting Act. We remain the only autonomous agency or semi-autonomous agency not listed. That would give us better control of our accounts. We can establish special accounts within our agency. Currently, we depend on Department of Administration to release funds to the agency, and then they relatively control most of the other expenditures. But that might be something we can work with you on the language for this amendment.
If I can add, Senator, one of the things we've always had to address is the different kind of patients that we serve. There are patients that come in that have insurance, and we bill the insurance and that kind of thing. We have patients that we talked about yesterday, the long stay patients that we don't get much out of them because we are taking care of them, but we're not able to bill Medicare anymore because their benefits have all been exhausted. We have patients that walk in off the street that are homeless. We take care of tourists that sometimes, you know, they get hurt when they're here and they come in, and sometimes they pay, sometimes they don't pay. Sometimes they take off the next day and go back to whatever country they came from, and we don't have the right address for them. We don't have the right phone number. That's also another challenge, is collecting from those kind of patients. We've had increasing costs, particularly since the pandemic. So we've had to, now with inflation, cost of living, the prices of the supplies and pharmaceuticals, obviously they've gone up, but even the cost for our personnel. We've had several pay increases since 2021. We've had to pay the nurses pay increases in order to retain them. And we also had the 22% pay increase for the general pay plan. We've had an increase on the law enforcement for our security guards. The costs for the benefits for these employees have also gone up, for retirement and for health insurance. These are the things that just keep escalating, and we're just not able to keep up with the rate of how that's climbing. And that's been a big challenge from my perspective on the financial side.
And you've been at GMH for what, 7 years now? 7, 8 years? 7 years?
Almost 7 years, yeah.
So, you know, does that get factored into your budget request, these
Yes.
additional costs?
Yes, yes.
So then, you know, and I guess maybe Steve or DOA, you know, Mr. Burns, you said you've been here. I mean, I guess the question, because obviously a lot of the advice in regards to how we fund GMH, you know, Steve, I don't know if you've been here since the early 2000s, and why historically we fund GMH the way we fund them, so that we kind of understand, you know, I guess what I'm trying to understand is, if they've been historically underfunded based on what they tell us every single time they come down here, is what is it that they're missing or that we need to hold them to, so that, you know, I'll use GCC as a good example, right? Everybody praises GCC and how they manage their funds, and they pretty much get what they normally ask for, although it's little. But how do we get there? Because, or what is the reason we are where we're at, and why historically GMH gets what they get, so that I can at least understand?
Senator, if I may provide an answer as well. I've been in private practice for many, many years, and the majority of my life here in Guam, over 30 years. And so from a private practice perspective, I'm not familiar with all the government rules and regulations. However, if we take what's functioning right now and put everything together, we have another hospital that's a private hospital that's functioning. And yet we have a public hospital that's not functioning. Why is it that the private hospital can function and the public hospital cannot? And I think my feeling is that the only way it's going to work is if we have this public-private partnership somehow, not perhaps the way it was presented before, but from a different perspective, in the sense that the government resumes what the Organic Act tells them what they have to do, making sure that they're responsible for those things, yet allowing the private management hospital or whatever you call it to be able to run the hospital like the way they would as a private hospital. I think that knowing what's successful and what's happening and seeing that what is possible in terms of the way Guam runs, I think that from my perspective as a private surgeon, seeing how things run, I think that's the way to do it. However, the government has to make sure that they owe up to their responsibility of taking care of the homeless, the people without insurers, those things. Because until, and quite honestly, unless we change how we do, for example, the Medicare billing, and we're able to get the payments that we deserve instead of the $1,600 payment that we currently get for Medicare. Until we do that and get reimbursed for how we actually take care of patients, we're continually going to lose every year.
Senator, can I also attempt to answer your question? I mean,
Sure.
how any enterprise fails or is failing is often a question that people inside can't often see because they're part of the day-to-day process, and you know, to give everybody their due, everybody's trying to make it work. They're trying to stretch resources, but there are internal factors and there are external factors. The external factors are costs. You know, costs, including medical costs, are more expensive on Guam because of the scarcity. That affects supplies, it affects equipment, and it affects people. You know, because not everybody, for whatever reason, wants to operate in a hospital on Guam with the, and especially because of the conditions that they find when they get there. There are internal reasons that, you know, Dr. Yosebe was talking about the comparison with the other hospital, and the other hospital has a lower cost base because they don't have the government retirement plan. You know, they don't have government mandates to fulfill, which GMH does. So how do we fund all that is that we have a budget. I mean, up until a few years ago, the budget effectively was in deficit. So it was hard to give GMH or anybody else sufficient funds to keep going. As you pointed out, as we've gone through the years, we may not have got exactly to the number they asked, but we've got much nearer. So maybe the issue is, you know, is the number they're asking right? Is that the right budget? Does that take account of all the circumstances? And it does seem that every adverse circumstance that there is affects GMH. Could I also just address this issue of the accounting, right? Yes, the Central Accounting Act does admit GMH from it, but we don't operate that way. They operate in exactly the same way as UOG, GCC, and everybody else. They have their own funds, their own bank account, so we do not operate them as if they're part of the Central Accounting Act. And I don't actually see how that would make any significant difference. The difference is what you do, not what the law says.
If I may, Senator, and thank you very much for recognizing that, yes, the hospital historically has been underfunded, which is really, that's the core of our financial footing right now. And then toppled by, and I will reiterate, all those different factors that have been mentioned by my peers here, you know, the reimbursement from Medicaid, Medicare, reimbursement from private insurance, we don't get the 100%. Then we have those patients who come in without any insurance, and as you can mention, we do have tourists. Recently we had an individual, a family that came to Guam, delivered their baby. The bill is over $250,000. They don't want to pay that $250,000. So yes, those are all the many different factors that affect our financial situation. And you know, yes, we come down here to ask for some additional funding, but if we, at least in the beginning, get adequate funding when we present our fiscal year budget, I think that will at least probably minimize our ask for 40 million, additional 40 million or 50 million. So thank you.
That was the point I was trying to make earlier, Senator. Nobody can afford 250,000. That's a circumstance that you've either got to factor in or factor out. When I was there, I think it was actually, we had a lot of Russian travelers who came and couldn't or didn't pay. And that's something that GMH, will have to deal with. These are exceptional things that really happen because of where we are on the edge of the Pacific, and we're the first stop for some of these patients, basically.
Thank you. Just one last question.
All right, he's gonna ask, well, what is the gap? And so Yuka's gonna respond saying, the gap is $80 million. That's what they're gonna need, right? So again, when Lillian Paris Posadas said recently there was a family that came in from off island and they delivered their baby and the bill was $250,000, the director, Ed Byrne, is correct. Nobody can afford $250,000. That's how much it costs to have my baby delivered at GMH with no insurance. Wow. I don't know what I'm gonna do with that bill. I probably will leave Island. I'm paying that. Are you serious? Let's go. Don't forget our baby. We're getting on the plane. We are not coming back. Wow. So again, Senator Vince Borja, he mentions that GMH asked in their budget request $72 million. They got $58 million and now is asking for another $40 million, which now is more than their ask. So if you take the 58 and the 40 and you just do radio math, that's 98 million, right? And so, okay, so that's more than your 72 that you asked for. So he asked, if we give you all the money today, would that solve all of your problems? Or will you still come back and ask for more? Because historically, no matter how much we gave you, you always come back. Yeah. And so they explain why. This is a public hospital. We cannot turn people away. Anybody that walks in, even if they're not from here, and we deliver their baby, I think that is alarming, though. I think we need to really rethink things. And healthcare is not affordable. I knew it wasn't affordable, but I didn't realize it's $250,000 to deliver your baby. I didn't realize it was that much. This is not even including all of the times that you would go to see your doctor leading up to. This is just time to give birth to my baby. No. Well, it would be my baby, hypothetically, but I'm not the one in labor. But I don't know what I'm going to do. That's life-changing money right there.
I'll just let
No wonder why my kids don't want to have babies. They're like, but, I would just say, we have insurance. I'm ready. I'm ready to be a grandpa. I'm ready. We will help raise them. As a matter, you could just drop them. I will take care of your baby. Okay. Patients with no insurance. Long stay patients whose Medicare and Medicaid benefits have been exhausted. Visitors who leave without paying, costing $250,000. Wow. Okay, so we're going to get into this in a little bit. we'll get back into this. But on the other side of the CBS News, I scheduled a conversation with JQ Kanata, who at the time of 9/11, 2001, September 11, 2001, he was the director of Customs and Quarantine. And so how did he respond? How did he respond to the terrorist attacks on September 11th here in Guam? And so I asked if he would be available. He will be after the other side of the CBS News. And so I know we have somebody that just called in. Unfortunately, we're right at the top of the hour. And then I have scheduled JQ Kanata, who's now the executive manager of the Guam International Airport. So 24 years ago, he was in charge of customs at the airport, and he is now there in another role as the executive manager of the airport. And so we're going to have that conversation after the CBS News. 4 o'clock on the dot. We are KGUM FM in Dededo, Guam.
It just works. Wave 105 FM.
Can you just ask Ben if he can call back after JQ Kanata?
Think you've got what it takes to win? Tune in every Friday on Wave 105 FM with Patty Arroyo for the Hilton Trivia Challenge. Test your knowledge and you can score dinner for two at the Hilton Guam Resort and Spa. It's brought to you by the Hilton Guam Resort and Spa only on Wave 105 FM.
The new and improved Chili's 3 for Me deal is here. Starting at $12.99, get a drink, an appetizer, and an entree. You heard right. You can get a Coke, chips and salsa, and an old timer with cheese for only $12.99. Only at Chili's. Great food and value happen here.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Cammie McCormick. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk has been shot and killed at a Utah college event.
Maybe 30 seconds after the shot, people started yelling, "Run." I crouched down, and I just took off running.
University police have been going building to building, evacuating people. They don't have a suspect in custody. And Anna Schechter reports witnesses described lax security.
His own personal security team was there with him, but we don't know what kind of a periphery they had secured. Eyewitnesses told us there were no metal detectors, that they just walked onto the field, essentially, to watch somebody come up and debate Kirk, which was the point of the event. So very minimal security.
President Trump confirmed Kirk's death, as Linda Kenyon reports.
In a post on social media, President Trump wrote, quote, "The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead." The president went on to say, quote, "He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he is no longer with us."
Correspondent Weijia Jiang reports there have been many tears at the White House from staffers.
This wasn't just a trusted advisor to President Trump. This was a friend to so many people here at the White House. They worked closely with Charlie Kirk during the first administration, during the president's reelection campaigns, and of course now.
President Trump has ordered flags flown at half staff. Trump was expected to speak with Poland's president after NATO warplanes were scrambled overnight to shoot down Russian drones in Poland's airspace. Charlie D'Agata has more.
There's something like 10,000 troops there. And the reason I mention that is because they're going to have next level surveillance and security anywhere where there's going to be U.S. troops in any kind of harm's way. So they will rely on satellite imagery if they get it. They're going to look at launches where they came from, because there are some reports that these drones originated from Belarus, which would also be a first. And of course, they're going to be able to track them. You know, you've had F-35s from the Netherlands who are tracking these drones.
President Trump's emergency order that federalized Washington's police force is expiring. WUSA TV's Marcella Robertson reports there will still be a National Guard presence.
The National Guard troops area deployment has been extended through November so that they can receive full military benefits. So I still expect to see them over the next coming days and weeks.
The former Justice Department attorney accused of hurling a sandwich at a federal agent in Washington has pleaded not guilty to a misdemeanor assault charge. The man who killed John Lennon, Mark David Chapman, has been denied parole for the 14th time. This is CBS News.
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Get renter's insurance to protect the things that make your place a home, including coverage for theft or damage. Visit Progressive.com.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial.
Visit mintmobile.com/radio. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. But not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
COVID-19 is no longer one of the top 10 causes of death in the U.S. More from CBS News reporter Christopher Cruz.
Suicide took the place of the coronavirus on the 2024 list, compiled by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Heart disease remains the leading cause of death in America. Cancer is at number 2. And the CDC says the number of deaths from both is higher than in 2023. There is some good news in the report. The overall death rate for all races and ethnicity groups dropped to its lowest level since 2020. Christopher Cruz, CBS News.
British researchers have announced the trial of a blood test for Alzheimer's, which is hoped to transform diagnosis of the disease. Researchers at the University College in London will assess whether the test could improve the accuracy of a diagnosis from 70 to over 90%. Health experts say early diagnosis is critical with Alzheimer's. I'm Cammie McCormick, CBS News.
It just works. Wave 105 FM.
Think you've got what it takes to win? Tune in every Friday on Wave 105 FM with Patty Arroyo for the Hilton Trivia Challenge. Test your knowledge and you can score dinner for 2 at the Hilton Guam Resort and Spa. It's brought to you by the Hilton Guam Resort and Spa only on Wave 105 FM.
We're excited to announce that we're hiring for a variety of positions with some of Guam's most recognized and respected brands, including Coca-Cola, Foremost, Chili's, Glimpses of Guam, Subway, Good to Go, and Cinnabon. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take the next step in your career, there's something here for everyone. Explore current opportunities and apply today at applynowguam.com. Your next great opportunity is just a click away.
Today, you're tuned into Wave 105 FM on the Brightside with Pauly Suba every weekday from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. and proudly sponsored by Chili's. Chili's Grill and Bar at Chili's. More life, great food, and memories happen here. Code School of Guam. Learn, code, and lead the island's first coding bootcamp. Your future in tech begins with us at Code School of Guam. GTA, we start with you. Micropack. Open at our Tamuning and Mall location. Make sure to follow our Instagram at Micropack671 and Micropack Inc. on Facebook for exciting deals and promotion. And also proudly sponsored by Waiza Animal Hospital. The Go Guam Support Locals campaign is proudly sponsored by Waiza Animal Hospital, where we treat your pet like valued family members they are. Waiza, the wise choice in animal care. And now here it is. It's time for your Real Deal Traffic Report, which is proudly sponsored by Guam Auto Spot. Schedule a test drive today at Guam Auto Spot by giving them a call at 478-AUTO or view our inventories at our website at guamautospot.com. Guam Auto Spot 671-478-AUTO. And proudly sponsored by Mobile Oil Guam. Mobile Oil Guam. Download our app today for exclusive fuel coupons. Visit guam.mobile.com. Guam.mobile.com for more details. And here it is. We're taking a look at traffic and Hagana area where the Paseo area is at. Traffic is building up heavily there, especially if you're coming down toward Anigo area, as well as Barragata MTM area. Traffic is heavy right there, going up towards Happy Mart, going up to Barragata Heights. And your traffic advisory report for today Motorists are advised to expect traffic delays, slow down, and comply with posted speed limits while traveling through work zone. And that is your real deal traffic report for this hour.
The views and opinions expressed in this show are that of the show hosts, guests, and callers. They do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff and management of Wave 105 FM, Glimpses Media, or any of our partners. As we strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105 FM, the sound of Guam. Enjoy the show.
ISLA, Guam is where I'm from. Tautanu Itamoru, kingdom of our people. GUAM, island in the sun. From Jigo to Molessi, this land is all that we know.
All right, welcome back. The Bright Side here on Wave 105. Biba Webis is Thursday, 4:10 in the afternoon. We're going to be calling the Guam International Airport. We're going to call the Guam International Airport Executive Manager JQ Kanata, John Kanata. You know what? I only recently found out that he served as a senator as well, and so, but even before, I'm not sure if it was before or after. I forget. I don't even remember when he was senator, that's probably going to be the first thing that I ask him when we get him on the air. But he was also the director of customs and quarantine, and his responsibility, one of his roles as the director is security of the airport, right? And so, and when you go back in time and where was he on September 11, 2001? He was at the airport. I wasn't sure if it was as the same role, but I thought he might have. I was like, was he the executive manager since 2001 and he's never left? And so I reached out to him. He said, no, I was the director of customs and was involved in the response of flights at the airport. But still, look at where he's at now, 24 years later. Now the executive manager of the Guam International Airport. And so on the line, we have the Senator J.Q. Kanata. Somebody had mentioned to me that you were a senator at the time. And so was this before or after 2001? Hello? Hafa Adai?
Hello.
Hafa Adai, you're on the air. You're on Wave 105.
Oh, hey, Hafa Adai, Pauly. Good afternoon, Pauly, and good afternoon, Guam.
Thank you so much for speaking with us about this very important topic, especially 24 years later, remembering the terror attacks, the terrorism attacks in Washington, D.C., in Pennsylvania, in New York City. And so Maureen Maritita, the publisher at Glimpses, was saying where she was back in 2001. She was here, and she wrote an article in the Guam Business Magazine. And so she was here doing this, but now she's the publisher. And she had mentioned, do you know JQ Kanata, he had a role at the airport. And I assumed it, I was like, at first, I assumed that you've been there the whole time. The trust of every governor and every board, they really love you as the executive manager, and you've been there since 2001. So I reached out, and then you clarified that no, at the time you were the director of Guam Customs, and so and somebody correct. Also mentioned to me, and I apologize, I haven't been tracking media, I haven't been tracking the legislature until probably 2018, and so I did not realize that you're a former senator as well. And so was that before 2001 or after?
Oh, I was a senator after 2001.
Yeah?
I was senator in 2003 to 2004.
2003 and 2004. Wow. And so you've done in your in different capacities, you've done a lot of great public service, right? And so I guess it's ingrained in you to be a public servant.
Right. And when I was the senator back then in 2003 and 2004, I was the oversight for public safety and the judiciary.
Okay. All right. And so I wanted to just ask you first to start things off. Where were you when you first learned of the 9/11 attacks? Were you at the airport at the time? Like physically?
I was a customs director, but then at the time that it started to happen, I was at home already.
You're at home.
And so I got a call from my central.
Yeah.
And, you know, back then, customs director, I'm referred to as 01.
Okay.
And so I got a call on the radio, Central 01. Central 01. I said, oh, something's going on. So I answered back, and he goes, sir, we are under attack, right?
Wow.
U.S. is under attack. Please refer to, you know, go to CNN because it's happening live. So I went on there, saw what was happening right away. I decided we needed to get to the airport because I remembered back then I received some letters from folks from the Middle East, you know, asking, hey, how's Guam? What are the nice hotels that are very popular in Guam? Which one is the most populated? What are the areas that we should be concerned as a tourist? Where should we visit and all that? So all that was clicking in. I got a hold of the FBI and said, hey, I got this. Here's this letter that I have. It might be relevant to what's happening now. So I reported to the airport right away. We looked at what flights, because they're using the airplanes as the weapon.
Right.
What flights were coming in and what flights were taking off. So we had to make sure that flights coming in, that was a pilot in control of the aircraft, and we needed to make sure that all those were happening. And we were doing this in conjunction with the airport authority that was there at that time, and also with federal authorities that are already responding to the scene, to the airport.
Wow. And so what kind of immediate actions did you take as the director of Guam Customs? I mean, I'm sure you didn't have the responsibility to ground all planes, but that's probably the director from FAA, right? That they grounded everybody.
That's correct. So we were getting advised by FAA and also by all the federal authorities. So obviously, at this time, federal FBI took over everything that was making call. We were just now starting to support whatever they were asking for.
Wow. And so as the director, what were some of the officers saying and whatnot and at the time, and were they all asked to come in? How did that all work?
Yeah, so we activated what we call our contraband enforcement team. At that time, it's similar to SWAT.
Yeah.
And so we were there and monitoring folks' movements coming in, the people that were getting ready to depart, and then we monitored folks that were coming into the airport or flying in. So we wanted to make sure that we accounted for, and we made sure that if there's any suspicious activity that we were able to identify that.
What was the atmosphere like at the airport? What time was this? Guam time.
So we wanted it was at night in Guam.
Yeah.
So we were worried about the flights that were coming in from midnight to 5 in the morning, because that was a peak time for us, and that's where all the flights that were coming in from all the foreign countries.
Wow. And so planes were landing after the terrorist attacks into the airport?
Right. So, but we were monitoring.
Right.
We make sure that they're monitoring to make sure that the planes that are coming in, that the pilots had them in control, had control of the aircraft, and nobody else was part of the crew.
Do you remember?
There was no issues.
Do you remember how the pilots and the flight attendants, or maybe even the passengers, were reacting as they were coming off the plane?
Well, at that time, they didn't. The social media wasn't as
Okay. So they weren't even
quick.
aware then.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
So it's really just the pilots and the crew that were being made aware through the FAA channels at that time.
Yeah. And so days after, I imagine there's a lot of these meetings and conversations, and I'm not sure how much you can share today, what's still confidential, but I'm sure security protocols were amplified, right, tremendously the days after, yeah?
Right. So if you know now, TSA wasn't even TSA at that time. It was just a private screener that was hired by the airport to go through. But because of 911, that's when the Transportation Security Agency was put into place to have a more secure screening process.
Yeah, because they branched off of Department of Transportation and became the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, right?
That's correct.
TSA is under Homeland Security. Yeah, absolutely.
That's right.
The U.S. Coast Guard even branched off and went over to Homeland Security. And so
was the immigration. So instead of it was the Department of Immigration and Border, Customs and Border Protection. So they combined Customs and Immigration into one.
Yeah, that's right. How is because we have Guam Customs and then you have U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, right? How has that relationship grown since then? I imagine you already had a very close relationship, but did you see any of that happen because of?
Oh yeah, so definitely Guam Customs and Customs and Border Protection here on Guam, they work together, work hand in hand. And you have two parts of the federal customs side. You got CBP, which is Customs and Border Protection, and then you got ICE
protection,
and those are the special agents that deal with all the different things as far as contraband and illegal activities and stuff. So those are the ones that handle that. The inspection side will be the Customs and Border Protection folks.
In Maureen's article, it shows photos of the National Guard over at the airport, and so how fast did the Guam National Guard get activated and start working or partnering up at the airport?
So soon after that, the president, of course, made a declaration, and all the National Guard folks were activated. And it wasn't only the airport that they were activated. They were activated for the airport. They were activated for all the different utility agencies, like all the power grids and the transfer stations and all that. They were guarding all of that. And so yes, the National Guard definitely played a big part after 911.
Right. I mean, it's pretty special to see that you're there 24 years later as the executive manager now, right? And so I was reading the article that Maureen put together 24 years ago, the days after, and just talking about how not just in Guam but even in the CNMI that people in Asia were scared to get on planes. And
that's right. So soon right after that, remember they grounded all planes. They grounded all flights from moving anywhere. So it wasn't for maybe a week that we were starting to get flights back in. From wherever they're coming from. I remember, I think Governor Gutierrez back then was stuck in Philippines, and we were trying to get him on a military aircraft to come into Guam, so he can be here to make the calls, give the guidance and direction.
Even in that same article, talking about how our mail even was slowed tremendously for the next 2 weeks.
Everything coming in was scrutinized and checked.
And so I mean, when you were there, seeing when did things start? I mean, I guess it's all relative when we're talking about normalizing, but because what was it, 2 months ago when they allowed us to keep our shoes on. So
right.
things were really on high alert for the next 6 months to a year.
Oh no, it kept going on even to this day. It's still on high alert, right? But they just started for at least a year, 2 years. We're still learning, and remember, it wasn't after a year when TSA agents started to show up at each of the airports, right? So, yeah.
Well, I thank you for just having the conversation. You were right in the thick of things 24 years later, and just being able to reflect back. Is there anything special that you want to share about the capacity?
Well, also
your capacity?
back then, because I just retired 2019, but back then I wore two hats. I was a customs director, and I was also in the National Guard, the Air National Guard.
Okay.
And so on one side, I'm the customs director.
Yeah.
Next, I'm a Air National Guardsman getting ready to deploy out to do our duties when we started going after these terrorists.
Right. And so you were deployed then. You were.
No, I didn't deploy back then.
Okay.
But definitely we got activated here on Guam.
Okay.
And just like all other guardsmen, whatever state they're in, they got activated at their state to go and secure the different areas that needed securing.
Okay, so you had two separate missions.
Right.
But they were aligned, obviously, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Wow.
So.
I mean, 24 years later, the saying goes, we will never forget, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
I still remember, is the sign still up? I swear 10, 15 years later, going into the Guam International Airport and boarding, you see the banner that is up that says, we shall not forget, and it has the photo of the Twin Towers and the American flag right there at the airport.
Unfortunately, those are not up anymore.
Right. But they were up for quite a while.
Yeah. I don't even remember when that was taken down, but definitely it's been a while.
Yeah. Well, I thank you so much, JQ, Senator and Executive Manager of the Guam International Airport Authority.
All right, Pauly.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share while I got you? Anything that you'd like to brag about?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, not brag, but the airport. We're trying to improve. We're starting to see our airport now being the painting just started.
That's right.
Finished.
Yes.
And then now the flooring.
Yes.
Phase one of the flooring is complete.
Yes, I saw photos.
Yeah. So we're moving on to phase two, but we're definitely making improvements, and hopefully so that in the future, the way we're doing the flooring, it's when we get another super typhoon or what, and it floods out the airport, that we'll be able to recover in days instead of years, right? So the flooring, we didn't put carpet back in. We made it a terrazzo floor so that in case it gets flooded again, all we have to do is drain out the water and dry it up, and we're ready to go. No more issues about mold on the floor or taking out the carpet and all that. So we're making it better and hardening it for future disasters.
The paint looks good outside. I noticed that you also gave a facelift of the Welcome to Guam, or
That's correct.
Hafa Adai Guam. I don't know what that is. It's basically, it's not a memorial, right? That thing has been there since I was born.
If you remember where the old airport was, where all the where the United offices are at now, that used to be the old airport.
That was
and
the
so
old
when you
one,
arrive, that Welcome to Guam was greeting folks coming in. And we remember back then, NAS, the gate. Not everybody had access to that gate.
That's
to pass through. So that was there for the old airport. So we're trying to find ideas on what can we best use that location for now, since it's no longer where people are coming in and are seeing it when they arrive.
Well, I would say it's still a landmark, though. I hope you don't tear it down. It's a landmark.
To make it where that possibly people can go there and take pictures or what. and so forth.
And just
so
relax
definitely
on the bench area that you have.
Yeah.
Well, I got you though, because people will call in and say, "What about the restrooms over there? Is any progress on that?" I know.
So the restrooms, we hit the headlines back then, and we get like 5,000 folks go through, and I wish they would take a picture of the whole airport, right? Because the whole airport is looking good, but the restrooms, you go in and people go in and they take their paper towels, and sometimes even though it's right there, they just leave it on top of the counter.
Right.
And we try to get our contractor. Our contractor is changing, and so the new contractor is not yet started, but they're trying to transition from one to the other. But we're trying to keep on top of them to make sure that they're cleaning the bathrooms more regularly and during peak hours to make sure that before the flights come in and after the flights go out, that they're consistently cleaning the bathrooms.
Right.
I wish we had it where in the Philippines you got a bathroom attendant in each bathroom 24/7, right? But we cannot do that here. We don't have the financial capability to have somebody stay in each bathroom 24/7. But we're trying to do our best with that. But overall, the airport, we're trying to improve it and to make sure that the passenger experience coming and leaving is positive.
Understood. Thank you so much. I appreciate the conversation as always. And so, again, when I look back 24 years later, who were the people that were responding to such an unfortunate event in our history? And we see people like yourself. We see Governor Carl Gutierrez, who was the congressman at the time, Robert Underwood, and we see all of these business owners. Continental Micronesia was still here,
That's right.
So yeah, you're part of all of that, and thank you so much for your service.
Right. All right. Thank you, Pauly.
All right. Take care, Senator.
All right. You have a good day.
All right, adios. 4:31 in the afternoon. We will take the break. Also, I know they're not sponsors of ours, but we do want to thank them. Jamaican Grill had the free barbecue lunch, right, for the first responders. And I know that ended around 3 p.m., but thanks to Jamaican Grill for doing that every year. All right, we'll take the break. Wave 105.
It's the biggest regret people have about money. I'm Mark Hamrick with the Bankrate.com Personal Finance Minute. Nearly 3 in 4 Americans say they have a financial regret, according to Bankrate's latest survey. That's a small improvement from 77% last year. The most common regret? Not saving early enough for retirement, cited by more than 1 in 5 Americans. That's followed by racking up too much credit card debt and not saving enough for emergencies. Overall, regrets about not saving, whether for retirement, emergencies, or children's education, outnumber regrets about too much debt by nearly 2 to 1. Retirement looms largely for Gen Xers and baby boomers, while millennials and Gen Zers split between retirement and credit card debt as their top regrets. But here's the catch. Among those with regrets, 43% say they've made no progress toward fixing them in the past year. While we can't control the cost of groceries, we can control whether we've set aside enough money for emergencies or retirement. For more, check out Bankrate.com. I'm Mark Hamrick.
And now it's time for your headline news brought to you by McDonald's of Guam. Bring on the fall flavors of McDonald's Guam. Treat yourself to a pumpkin cream pie, pumpkin spice latte, or pumpkin iced coffee. Hurry in, only for a limited time, only at McDonald's. And now here's your...
I think I'm still on the air.
Time for your headline news with our very own Skylar Obispo. Oh, Skylar! Okay, here's Skylar. Sorry, Skylar.
Buenas and Hafa Adai. Here's the latest from the Marianas Business Journal. The Guam legislature adjourned a special session on Wednesday, September 10th, without taking action on Governor Lourdes A. Leon Guerrero's compromise budget proposal, prompting sharp criticism from the administration and a clash among senators over funding for Guam Memorial Hospital. Senator Christopher Duenas, who chairs the legislature's budget discussions, told colleagues that the governor's submission included more than just changes to the business privilege tax. Duenas said that the bill contained sweeping policy changes crammed into a budget with no public input, including provisions that would expand executive authority over education funding, procurement, and health insurance contracts. The governor's office issued a statement condemning the legislature's decision. Leon Guerrero said her proposal would have balanced the budget while delivering urgently needed funds to GMH. Lawmakers met later on that day at a third special session where a measure would be introduced to appropriate $19.75 million in bond savings to GMH. In more news, Sanctuary Incorporated of Guam, in collaboration with West Care Pacific Islands Guahan Youth Initiative, will be hosting its first ever youth conference on September 20th at the Lodi Hotel. The GYI is a program designed to empower Guam's youth by addressing critical social issues in their development, like housing instability and career readiness. The inaugural event will help participants gain skills in financial literacy, social service navigation, and more, according to GYI on social media. Registration for the event is open till September 12th and is free and open to ages 14 to 24. Reporting for the Marianas Business Journal, The Wave 105, and Power 98, I'm Skylar Obispo.
Think you've got what it takes to win? Tune in every Friday on Wave 105 FM with Patty Arroyo for the Hilton Trivia Challenge. Test your knowledge and you can score dinner for two at the Hilton Guam Resort and Spa. It's brought to you by the Hilton Guam Resort and Spa only on Wave 105 FM. Time is running out to join us for the first ever Run for Wishes. It's all going down Saturday, September 13th at the Leo Palace Resort. There's still a chance to register or volunteer and be a part of something truly special. Every step, every smile helps bring hope and makes dreams come true for children in Guam and the CNMI. Don't miss this moment. Make a weekend out of it by booking our Run Weekend Stay Special. Visit Leo Palace's Facebook and Instagram today for more information. And we'll see you at the Run for Wishes at the Leo Palace Resort.
Hafa Adai at Wave 105 FM. We want to talk. We want to talk about the things that are important to our island and our community, and we want to talk with you. If you want to join the conversation, if you want to chime in, we welcome it. We welcome all points of view, all thoughts, all perspectives. Call or WhatsApp us at 671-922-1051. If that line is busy, then call us at 922-1052. This is Talk for Everyone. Thanks for listening to Wave 105 FM, the talk of Guam.
Pat's Tinting and Detailing offers premier services from complete interior cleaning and VIP detailing. And to keep you cool, Pat's also offers factory, ceramic, blacked out, and based-approved auto tinting. For more information, call 647-SLAM.
It's the Guam Auto Spot Overstock Sell-Off, and our manager is absolutely crazy for dropping these deals. Right now, drive off in a brand new 2025 Eclipse Cross for just $24,995. That's $2,000 off the original price. Plus, check out our high-quality pre-owned vehicles, fully inspected and ready for the road. Get pre-approved online at guamautospot.com or call 478-AUTO to schedule your test drive today. It's the Guam Auto Spot Overstock Sell-Off, and everything must go.
Hafa Adai, you're tuned in to the Wave 105 FM on the Brightside with Pauly Suba every weekday from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. And proudly sponsored by Sentinel Security Solution, Guam premier provider of professional security services. Sharon Williams, the wet season is on the way and your roof needs to be ready. Don't wait for the blazing sun or the pounding rain. Get ahead with weather-ready coating. Be smart, be prepared, and ask for Sharon Williams. Subway, eat fresh. In just a few clicks, order online at subwaypacific.com for pickup at your convenience or for delivery right at your doorstep. Order online at subwaypacific.com is powered by Good to Go. We deliver. At Subway, we got a refresh to be fresh. And now it's your time for your Real Deal Traffic Report. And your Real Deal Traffic Report is proudly sponsored by Guam Auto Spot. Schedule a test drive today at Guam Auto Spot by giving them a call at 671-478-AUTO or visit their inventory on their website at guamautospot.com. Guam Auto Spot 671-478-AUTO. And proudly sponsored by Mobile Oil Guam. Download our app today for exclusive fuel coupons. Visit guam.mobile.com for more details. Here it is, taking a look at the traffic. I have for you heavy flow on Barragata Heights, especially if you're coming from MTM, as well as the Hagana area starting from Sinahana going all the way down to Paseo. Heavy flow there. And picking up on the JFK area as well. That is your Real Deal Traffic Report for this hour. Traffic advisory, constructive activities will continue along Route 10 between Route 4 intersection and Payless through to Route 32 intersection. And that is your Real Deal Traffic Report for this hour.
Welcome back. The Brightside here on Wave 105. Viva Webis! It's Thursday, September 11, 4:41 in the afternoon. Almost time to get, we'll be here till 6, but for you, if you get off at 5, you're just counting it down, right? You're just probably like doing busy work on the laptop, making it look like you're busy, but you've been done with work since 2 p.m. So now you're just chilling, going to the copier machine, making more copies, maybe walking around the office, checking out everybody else, making sure that they're not slacking off. You better get to work. You can hang out with us if you want. You can hide in your cubicle and call us and give us a fake name if you want and share how your day is going. 671-922-1051 or 1052. We're online, thewave105.com, as well as our YouTube channel, Wave 105.1 FM Guam. Some more good news, right? So I learned while we were talking to JQ Kanata, right, on reflecting back when he was the director of Guam Customs. This day 24 years ago, the legislature voted to or passed the bill that the governor has sent down to appropriate $40 million to GMH. Now, the only amendment that I am familiar with right out the gate, Senator Vince Borja had an amendment that says give GMH the money. Because the way the bill reads is it goes to DOA, and then DOA is going to be transmitting these monies. And then listening to when they were in committee of the whole, and the director of DOA, Ed Byrne, was there saying, it will be piecemealed. They will be sending it, not in its entirety. GMHA is saying we would like to get that money. It just makes more sense for us to take it and not wait for DOA to give it to us. And so that was the first amendment, and it passed. So they've made amendments. I didn't see. I think the other amendment that I saw was Perez. Sabina Perez had an amendment submit quarterly reports to the speaker. So that was also attached to the bill. So they made some amendments. They'll be back in session tomorrow for another special session on 2 other bills that the governor sent out. Actually, no, it's not session. My bad. Public hearings. They're going to have public hearings on 2 bills that the governor sent down. And so it will be Senator Chris Duenas that has oversight over government operations, right? And so he will be overseeing those. And so that's something that we're tracking. We're going to continue to track. We're going to continue to track the legislature for this entire month, right? Because there's still the fact that the governor has vetoed the budget bill that they passed. And they have the rest of this month to decide when they're going to go for the override. Word is that they'll go for it when they go back into session late September. The worry is if they do it, if they wait though, and they don't have the votes to override, they're up against the clock. But let's do this. Togi. I want to continue to make this announcement. I'm going to share with our sister stations. So, beginning tomorrow, in honor of Recovery Month, they're doing the Safe Drive Home program for the entire month of September, every Friday and Saturday night. So beginning tomorrow night, between 9:30 p.m. and 2:30 a.m., you can call 686-9276 or 787-9276. In partnership with the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, Togi Incorporated is they are standing up once again the Safe Drive Home initiative for the entire month of September. So how this works again is every Friday and Saturday in September, if you need a safe ride home, you can call these numbers and somebody will come and get you. No questions asked, and take you home. 671-686-9276 or 787-9276. I'll say them again. Got a pen? I'll wait. Notepad, your cell phone, put it in your WhatsApp chat, right? Create a whole new contact. Togi, Tohge, right? And then I guess on last name, you could put Safe Drive Home. So you write that down or you type that in, and then you can type in these numbers again. 686-9276. 686-9276. The other number, 787-9276. This is free designated driver services for the entire month of September for Friday night and Saturday night from 9:30 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. Once again, in honor of Recovery Month, Togi Inc., in partnership with the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, they're standing up the Safe Drive Home in honor of Recovery Month. All right, 4:48 in the afternoon. Let's do this because there was one other audio file that I wanted to play. And it's kind of, well, I wouldn't say it's a non-issue at this point because the legislature did pass the bill with amendments. But it was an interesting dialogue. So after Senator Vince Borja and his line of questioning and the leadership from GMHA sharing that the real gap every year is $80 million, right? GMH asked for $72 million. They got $58 million, but they really need $80 million. They need to be subsidized by the general fund $80 million a year. Costs keep rising due to mandates, treating everyone, inflation, low reimbursements. $250,000 is how much it costs to deliver your baby out of pocket. And even with the money, GMH will likely still need help year after year unless the funding model changes. Jesse Kenga brought it up early on in that dialogue. But after that conversation, the next senator was Senator Jesse Lujan. And so he talks about, he asks, why is the $40 million routed through DOA instead of directly to GMH? And so he says, isn't this proof that the governor doesn't trust GMH's money management? So here's the back and forth. We'll just play it. And Senator Jesse Lujan stands by it because, again, when they introduced the amendment, when Senator Vince Borja introduced that amendment, he went on the record stating that he believes the governor thinks that it's a management issue. I think Senator Jesse Lujan also thinks that it's a management issue. I think Senator Vince Borja also thinks it's a management issue. I think Senator Chris Duenas also thinks it's a management issue. Why? Because I've heard them say it in one forum or another. So here's Senator Jesse Lujan questioning not just if GMH has a management problem, a money management issue, but he's saying, I think the governor also thinks you have a money management problem. And here's the dialogue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And good morning, panel. Yesterday was mentioned that that GMH owes probably in excess of maybe $8 million, right, to the government in regards to health insurance, right? Self-insurance? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay. So in essence, that amount, that is not just the government's share, right? That's inclusive of the employees' share as well?
I believe so.
Yeah, okay. So basically the employees are paying, but the government is not remitting that, correct?
GMH is not remitting.
Oh, yeah. The GMH is not remitting that, right?
That's my belief. Perhaps you would ask them to confirm that, please.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's what it is. I understand also that you're current in your retirement fund payment, but they're probably close to about $2 million that GMH still owes the retirement fund, right?
No, we're current with retirement right now.
You don't owe $2 million?
No.
Really? We have document that shows that you're probably close to $2 million in what's owed. You're current in your payment, but you still owe $2 million.
I had no idea about that, sir.
Okay, maybe we'll provide you that copy, and Mr. Burns had provided that to the staff here, and we just saw that. So we're close to $2 million regarding that. That being said, you guys are, obviously you're down here. You're supporting the governor's bill. You guys all endorse this bill, right? Yeah. Okay. And the reason why I'm asking this is because, and I agree, Dr. Sabio, I agree, PPP is the way to go. I know there's other, being a public hospital, of course, it has its challenges, and the other added situations that maybe public or private hospitals don't have will have to be solved, but the PPP is the way to go. And that being said, and you endorse this bill. What is very glaring about this bill as well is this bill came from the governor's office, from the governor herself, right? And it's pretty glaring because what this bill will do, basically, will take this money and give it to DOA to administer, and then to GMH. So again, if the bill passes, it'll be sent to DOA and then to GMH. And my question, why wouldn't you go straight to GMH? We've always learned that the quickest way from point A to point B is a straight line. Obviously, we're taking the scenic tour in this situation. So I think the governor as well recognizes there's a money management problem over there in this bill. And this is not our bill. This is the governor's bill. So it's very blatant and clear in this bill, because it's not going directly to you or GMH. It's going to DOA to administer and then to you guys. So there is a money management problem, and she recognizes that. Do we agree? Or is that the portion of the bill that you do not agree with, the governor?
I'm not clear on the money management issue that you're bringing up. If the governor wants to...
Why wouldn't she not just want directly to give it to GMH then?
I'm not sure.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. Why would she not?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that there is a money management problem, and she recognizes that. That's all I have,
I
Mr.
disagree,
Chairman.
Senator. I disagree respectfully. It's not a money management. But
Okay,
I
well,
guess
well,
for the
this
record...
is her bill. This is not ours. This is her bill.
Okay.
And it's you know, again, the quickest way to, the quickest route to point A to point B is a straight line. It's not going to you guys straight. It's not going.
We know
why-
that,
why-
and we
why-
understand that, but
yeah,
it's not
we
about money
understand that,
management.
but why? Why not? Why?
I can't answer
Yeah,
for why,
well-
but
well-
Mr. Byrne addressed that earlier.
The governor obviously sees that there's a money management problem here.
That's not the judgment. Mr. Byrne already addressed the response in terms of why
Okay,
it should go
well,
to DOA.
If it
Thank
has
you.
to go to another party before it goes to you, it's obviously that there's a management concern, then a money management concern. That's what I'm saying. And this is not a bill that we wrote. It hasn't even been amended yet. It hasn't been amended yet. We're going straight with what has been given to us. We're reading what it says. That's all I'm saying. Why would it be stated in this capacity? And even Dr. Eusebio has mentioned that the way to go manage it is through a PPP. So I'm just jumping on what he has said. You know, other than the other issues that need to be addressed in regards to a public hospital, a better management resource will probably be through a PPP. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, and so that was in the morning, and then they recessed. Right, they came back at 2:30 p.m. And then they started introducing amendments, and then right out the gate is Senator Vince Borja introducing an amendment that again does exactly what Senator Jesse Lujan was saying. The fastest way is a straight line from point A to point B, and they passed that amendment. So we'll see. $40 million to GMH. Well, here's the thing: that the governor sent it down, and now they pass it with amendments. I haven't seen, besides that one, I haven't seen what other amendments. Does the governor like the amendments now? Because I'm thinking this is her bill. I don't think that's a deal breaker to just give the whole 40 to GMH. I don't think that's a deal breaker. I don't know, but we're waiting for a statement from the governor, the communications director maybe on now, because it didn't take very long for yesterday to see what the governor's office felt about adjourning without any action on the budget bill that the governor sent down for them to look at on Wednesday, just yesterday. 15 minutes, they adjourn, no action. Senator Chris Duenas also sharing that there are quite a few errors on that budget bill. There are quite a few unfunded projects. More capital improvement projects were included into the budget bill that the governor sent down. A GPD headquarters is one too. And how are we gonna build a new GPD headquarters through leaseback? But I think it's one step at a time. You have Simon Sanchez High School that still hasn't been. We haven't even really broke ground there, right? Or maybe we did do a groundbreaking, but they haven't started building the new thing. The old one is still up. The clock is ticking on the Hagåtña pool, right? They have a year. Was it in July? So 2 months down, you got 10 more months for the Hagåtña pool to open up, right? And then the new hospital. That's another project that should get done first. I think GW High School needs to get done first. GW High School is next. Is it not? I think so. I think that's the next school to get built. Before GPD headquarters, I think police stations. Talafofo is almost ready to open up, right? I think. But then there's also the property that's getting transferred out of the Tomorrow Land Trust inventory to give to GPD to build a police station in Gigo first. So those were some of the concerns. I mean, that Senator Chris Duenas was sharing, and I have to agree on that part with him there. But before you really do got to think about George Washington High School, because they also deserve a new facility, and it is staring at us. It's basically peeking out the window, saying, when the sharks are done, us geckos are ready too. We are next. How many fingers do geckos have? 3? 3 fingers? They don't have 5, do they? 3, 4, I don't know. 8, all 8 toes. 16 toes up. What do these kids say when they're standing on business? Right? 10 toes, all 10 toes, standing on 10 toes. The geckos are ready. I think that's a conversation that needs to happen very soon. All right, 5:02 in the afternoon. We will take the break, and we'll get you your CBS News, and then Nene is going to hook you up with the Real Deal Traffic Report right here on Wave 105 KGUM FM in Dededo, Guam.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Cammie McCormick. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk has been shot and killed at a Utah college event.
Maybe 30 seconds after the shot, people started yelling, "Run." I crouched down, and I just took off running.
University police have been going building to building, evacuating people. They don't have a suspect in custody. And Anna Schechter reports witnesses described lax security.
His own personal security team was there with him, but we don't know what kind of a periphery they had secured. Eyewitnesses told us there were no metal detectors, that they just walked onto the field, essentially, to watch somebody come up and debate Kirk, which was the point of the event. So very minimal security.
President Trump confirmed Kirk's death, as Linda Kenyon reports.
In a post on social media, President Trump wrote, quote, "The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead." The president went on to say, quote, "He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he is no longer with us."
Correspondent Weijia Jiang reports there have been many tears at the White House from staffers.
This wasn't just a trusted advisor to President Trump. This was a friend to so many people here at the White House. They worked closely with Charlie Kirk during the first administration, during the president's reelection campaigns, and of course now.
President Trump has ordered flags flown at half-staff. Trump was expected to speak with Poland's president after NATO warplanes were scrambled overnight to shoot down Russian drones in Poland's airspace. Charlie D'Agata has more.
There's something like 10,000 troops there. And the reason I mention that is because they're going to have next-level surveillance and security anywhere where there's going to be U.S. troops in any kind of harm's way. So they will rely on satellite imagery if they get it. They're going to look at launches where they came from, because there are some reports that these drones originated from Belarus, which would also be a first. And of course, they're going to be able to track them. You know, you've had F-35s in the Netherlands who are tracking these drones.
President Trump's emergency order that federalized Washington's police force is expiring. WUSA TV's Marcella Robertson reports there will still be a National Guard presence.
The National Guard troops area deployment has been extended through November so that they can receive full military benefits. So I still expect to see them over the next coming days and weeks.
The former Justice Department attorney accused of hurling a sandwich at a federal agent in Washington has pleaded not guilty to a misdemeanor assault charge. The man who killed John Lennon, Mark David Chapman, has been denied parole for the 14th time. This is CBS News.
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Get renter's insurance to protect the things that make your place a home, including coverage for theft or damage. Visit Progressive.com.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial.
Visit mintmobile.com/radio.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. But not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
COVID-19 is no longer one of the top 10 causes of death in the U.S. More from CBS News reporter Christopher Cruz.
Suicide took the place of the coronavirus on the 2024 list, compiled by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Heart disease remains the leading cause of death in America. Cancer is at number 2. And the CDC says the number of deaths from both is higher than in 2023. There is some good news in the report. The overall death rate for all races and ethnicity groups dropped to its lowest level since 2020. Christopher Cruz, CBS News.
British researchers have announced the trial of a blood test for Alzheimer's, which is hoped to transform diagnosis of the disease. Researchers at the University College in London will assess whether the test could improve the accuracy of a diagnosis from 70 to over 90%. Health experts say early diagnosis is critical with Alzheimer's. I'm Cammie McCormick, CBS News.
Nothing but the best. Wave 105 FM.
Bolt your doors, lock your windows, turn off your lights, and come with me into the Weird Darkness. I'm Darren Marlar, the host of Weird Darkness, every Thursday night from 6 to 8 here on Wave 105.1. Every week on Weird Darkness, you'll hear 2 hours of stories of the paranormal, supernatural, legends, lore, crime, conspiracy, mysterious, macabre, unsolved, and unexplained. Weird Darkness, this Thursday night at 6 on Wave 105.1.
Hafa Adai, you're tuned into Wave 105 FM on the Brightside with Pauly Suba every weekday from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. and proudly sponsored by Chili's. Chili's Grill and Bar. At Chili's, more live, great food and memories happen here. Code School of Guam. Learn, code, and lead the island's first coding boot camp. Your future in tech begins with us at Code School of Guam. GTA, we start with you. Micropack, open at our Tamuning and Mo location. Make sure to follow our Instagram at Micropack671 and Micropack Inc. on Facebook for exciting deals and promotions. And now it's time for your Real Deal Traffic Report. With your Real Deal Traffic Report, it's proudly sponsored by Guam Auto Spot. Schedule a test drive today at Guam Auto Spot by calling them at 671-478-AUTO or view our inventories on our website at guamautospot.com. Guam Auto Spot, 671-478-AUTO. And proudly sponsored by Mobile Oil Guam. Download our app today for exclusive fuel coupons. Visit guam.mobile.com for more details. Now taking a look here at our traffic, I have for you, if you are traveling on the airport road going down all the way toward the intersection traffic light on Route 16 where, or Route 1 where Subway is at, and where Mobile is right there, the traffic light. Traffic there, heavy flow. And if you make that right turn going all the way up to JFK, as well as there, heavy flow. Due to school and student section, please be careful for pedestrians. And if you shift gears going out to Barragata Heights, there as well, traffic, Route 16, heavy flow there. That is your Real Deal Traffic Report for this hour, last hour. And your traffic advisory, constructive activities will continue along Route 10 between the Route 4 intersection and Payless through to Route 32 intersection. Now it's time to get back into the show, The Bright Side.
Be my cradle, be my womb. Dasego, my misnabo, be the stillness of the moon.
All right, welcome back. Biba Webis. It's Thursday, September 11th, 5:10 in the afternoon. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here on Wave 105. My name is Pauly Suba. It's the Bright Side, rolling with Nene, Queen Nene.
Hi.
Hafa Adai.
Hafa Adai.
Are you ready for the Doni Festival?
Yes, I'll be there.
Yeah?
Oh, did I just tell everybody?
For all of Queen Nene's stalkers, guess she just exposed herself. She will be over all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
For tomorrow.
For tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna give like opening remarks? Yeah.
If they ask.
How does that all work?
I guess we just go there and
say hello.
Hello and help out.
Cause you're an ambassador now. You're an island ambassador, right? Mm-hmm. As a queen.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so the Doni Festival in Manilao begins. Technically, because the Thursday night markets all doesn't get canceled, right? So they have that every Thursday, right? Mm-hmm. So technically, there's gonna be something going down Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah, over.
I'm looking forward for the food.
Yeah, the Doni eating contest.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you eat so much of that,
no, you're gonna be on the toilet for a while.
No cure.
Oh no. Hopefully that's what you win. You win like the J. Goodman toilet paper, right? Like lifetime supply. Cause he has, right?
Yeah, one of the ones that my favorite. Guess what it's called?
I don't know.
Clean your anus.
Really?
Yes.
Is it really?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I thought it was like something for your tush or something, but it really is clean your anus?
And then
how do they spell it?
Same way, clean your anus, but then on the bottom it says save the universe.
So it's Uranus the planet. Okay. That's pretty funny. Heck yeah. Senator Dwayne St. Nicholas should sponsor that. And then if the winner of the Doni eating contest should win a year supply, a lifetime, that's a lot. A year supply of Clean Uranus toilet paper. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. So let's go back to Because what Senator Jesse Lujan resonated with me. Because he's saying that the governor thinks that there is money management issues with GMH, right? But Lillian Paris Posadas, the CEO, doesn't agree with that. And they give, again, it goes back to what the responses were from the question that Senator Vince Borja brought up. He says, if we gave you all the money today, would that solve all your problems? And so Yuka Hechanova, who's in charge of finances over at the hospital, says the budget, what we project will be all our expenses for the year is $213. What we expect to collect is $133. So that gap is what we need. That's the gap, $80 million. And hold that, because it's almost $100 million. Hold that thought, because Senator Chris Duenas at the Guam Chamber of Commerce meeting is concerned about that. And he says GMHA has a money management problem. Not just GMH, but GDOE also. And that's why I called GDOE and asked them to confirm some of the issues that they're facing. And Mr. Borja, Wade Paul, came in and he sat right in this chair, and we talked about the issues that they're facing at GDOE. And then the superintendent, Eric Swanson, called in that same day, right? And so we'll talk about some of the challenges that they face when spending. How difficult is it to spend lapse funds? And he says the public needs to understand that we cannot just pay for anything using federal grants. There are laws and the U.S. Ed guidelines on what we can spend on federal grant funds dependent on the actual grant. The public also needs to understand that we have to turn in a grant application with a plan of what we intend to spend grant funding on. And if we can't meet that plan because of procurement issues, then we need to seek approval from USAID to procure something else. And the procurement process and the laws are complicated and slow. And we're talking about a number of issues too, right? On, for example, what do you mean by it being slow? Ern's on the line, though, and he wants to get in on the conversation. Hafa Adai, Ern. Ern, you there?
Hafa Adai, Pauly.
Hafa Adai.
Yeah, getting with this hospital circus.
Mm-hmm.
The circus has been going on for decades. Not just this administration.
Right.
Numerous previous administrations on both sides, the Republican and Democrat side.
Okay.
And they want what? $40 million more? Yeah, that's a good question to ask them. Is that, would that fix everything? No, because they're going to come back there again and say that we're in crisis again in the next 6 to 18 months.
Yep, they will come back because
they
have the vendor payments.
And they always say, oh, we don't have enough. But then they want to make sure that they make their payroll, which is understandable.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, for the people who have to pay, that do pay or have insurance, that their insurance do pay, they pay the co-pay, whatever and all that, then I understand that there's rules and regulations that they got to follow. And then again, I just heard you talk about the grants. Watch this. Believe me not. I bet you they're going to say, oh, we couldn't spend this amount of money like every year
Mm-hmm.
before the end of the fiscal year. There's $15 million. It's going to be returned back because then it wasn't obligated or used for what it's supposed to be used for. So then why did they ask for it in the first place?
The federal grant or the local funding?
Federal grants too
Federal, yeah.
also.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, on the local funding,
The lapse funds?
They just go to town on the local funding because then they think that there's an endless pocket for that. You know, and I understand that people need to be paid what they're worth, but yet there's too much of this dilly-dallying going on for the longest time. And like I said, and I mentioned this before, that hospital is already over 30, 40 years old. Every so often, so many years that go by, they spend millions of dollars for infrastructure planning. Millions to outside companies. And what did they do with the plan? Nothing really. Because then now they're still trying to figure out how, where they're going to build a new hospital or how they're going to fund it or build it. By the time it's built and stuff and all that, it's going to take another, 3 to 5 years, maybe 6 or 7?
To build it, yeah, for sure.
What does that mean for the people? Bonetsu? It's our fault. No, I work, you work, we all pay our taxes. You know, we do the right thing. But yet, we're the ones that are suffering because of it. Then the rollback on the DBT issue. Okay? There was a law that was made. Follow the law. And they had it open for 7, 8 years at 5% on the BPT? And it was only supposed to happen for 1 year. And yet they just let it keep on going at 5%. So everybody paid out the yin-yang again, but yet our hospital is still in the dire strait that it is in. So what did they do with that money?
That was something that Senator Chris Duenas said yesterday, right? Is for 7 years.
7
and
years.
so GMH hasn't been solved yet.
The stuff, but then that law that was passed by the previous legislatures, it was supposed to be only for 1 year. But then they kept it at that, and they just let it stay at 5.
Right. So when I was listening to the budget hearing, and then obviously Lester Carlson had to walk back some of the sentiments saying that was illegal, but then they confirmed again the next day, and they said it wasn't illegal because they went back within the legislature at the time to close that gap. So it's not illegal. I have to go back and watch what Lester Carlson said.
If it's in black and white.
Yeah.
Black and white is what counts. Them talking about it and saying it doesn't make it law. If it's in black and white and it's been repealed, then they need to put that out in black and white and put it in the PDN, news media, the whole 9 yards.
Fair enough. I don't think it'll be too hard
to say, the 33rd or 35th or whatever repealed that law and changed it back to that it's going to stay at 5%. Then at least they got something in writing, so that they know who were. They should post who are the senators who voted for it, and if they're still in, then that's something that they need to look at when it comes to election time next year. Like this, I'm sorry to say, to go off on this, but this compact free association stuff that they have, that was divvied out by Congress, if I'm not mistaken. They agreed to that. And yet, most of the outer islands that come here, they utilize our services, and they think that it's covered under the Compact Free Association with the U.S. And if they do pay, it's only pennies on the dime. That's why that hospital is in that type of situation. My recommendation was, and it still is to this day, find out who voted for them in Congress, from what state they're from, and send them there to their state so that they can use up their state funding and everything and all that, and leech off their system and see how they like it when they have no money to pay for their medical supply, pay their employees because the federal government's taking forever to pay, or they only get pennies on a dime for the services. That's the only fair thing that I could say, is send those people to the states that Congress voted for that to happen. Whether it be Republican or Democrat, it shouldn't matter. They voted for it, they passed it, and yet they want a foul ball Guam on it and hold us hostage for that. When we ask for money to go for that, it's supposed to be X amount of millions of dollars. They only give what, 1%? Maybe they're lucky to even get 3% for that year.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we don't control our immigration law, right? And so this is a U.S. territory. This is America, and so those that make negotiations with the U.S., these free association islands and countries, they have that negotiating power, and so they've negotiated successfully with the U.S., and so we are under the U.S., and so they have every right to come here under the laws that we...
I mean, I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
I mean, that is fine and dandy, but
Right.
yet when they keep on using the services that are needed for the people here,
But they have the right to...
crying that they don't have money to pay for medical supplies because it's being used up, to pay their employees because of
But
the
that's
care
not
that
on
they're
them,
giving
though. That is on the U.S. Government, that they need to see it that way, the way you
That's
see
why
it.
I'm saying is
Yeah.
that to be fair to our people here on this island that live and work here. Okay?
Right.
Now, we go to the hospital, they said, oh, sorry, we can't do the operation or we can't do this because we don't have this type of medication or this type of tools or whatever that's needed to go do that.
Right.
So, because then they use it all up on other stuff and they haven't received the money from the U.S. government
Right.
to go and replenish that. And if they do, they only get a fraction of it.
Right. And this is
So
a public
how is
hospital,
that fair
right?
to us here?
It's not fair, but in essence, right, well, the public hospital cannot turn people away. And so...
I understand that they can't because
Right.
they are obligated by an oath to also that they take as being a doctor.
Yeah,
Is that they
even
need to...
even just anybody walking in,
Exactly.
they shared a story
But
of some of tourists that had their baby delivered, $250,000 bill. No one can afford that. No one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my question is that how is that tourist being able to fly out here in their third semester, within their third semester to fly here from a doctor in from their country or state? No doctor here will do that to say, hey, you're good to go. You're 8.5 weeks pregnant.
Right.
You can go ahead and fly to go to Korea or Philippines.
They didn't say the ethnicity, but I know what you're talking about.
I'm just using that as an example.
Right. I understand.
So no doctor here will approve that.
But I think if they walk into our public hospital and their baby needs to be delivered, They're going to have to help this family, and they have.
And I heard something earlier today about something into that retrospect saying that what's her name from the hospital, Posadas, saying that they gave us the wrong information, wrong phone numbers, and all that.
Yes,
they came in on
that's
a
what
tour
they said,
company. If they came in on a tour company, the tour company has all that pertinent information on them.
Right. No, for sure.
So I don't know why that she's using that as that's an excuse.
Well, I don't know.
That
We
is
don't know if
not-
there's an investigation going through. She just used as an example, right? She gave an example of a baby delivery costing $250,000 and they never paid. Not saying that they're not going to go
Is
after
that
that
what it costs
money.
for our people here to have a baby delivered?
So-
$250,000.
Apparently, it is. If you go in and you have your baby delivered at with no insurance, that's how much they're going to charge you. Because they can't discriminate. They said, "Oh, you're a foreigner. It's
Oh, yes, I understand
$250,000."
that. They cannot discriminate.
Yeah, they can't. So
the baby's going to get born, but
yeah. So
why
that's
is that person flying in their third trimester? Would you let your wife fly out?
Oh
to the
no,
States?
no. But I'm just saying, if it's $250,000 to deliver that baby, it's going to be $250,000 to deliver my baby with no insurance. That's how I take it, and I can't. Nobody can afford that,
Well,
and
then
that's
again, they should tag the tour agent or tour company that brought them in.
yeah.
They should be able to say, hey, if trimester or second
Sure.
trimester,
Well-
you need a clearance from a doctor, and then they need to send it off to here to the agent here to have the doctor look at their medical record and say, okay, yes, they're okay to fly. But if they're in their third,
right,
that's a high risk.
No, I agree with you 100%. I'm just saying we don't know if there's an investigation. We don't know if they're not going to try and get that 250. They probably are, and they should. But I'm just the number alone is alarming because clearly health care is unaffordable for everybody.
Everywhere.
For everybody here in Guam. And they give examples. Unfortunately, we live on an island far away from everywhere else. We don't manufacture anything, so we got to import it all. And that's just added costs. And then if the equipment, especially if it's a specialized equipment, then it's going to take a while because we got to get in line with everybody else that needs this equipment. And so these are the challenges that we face every day living here. And unfortunately, we don't see the same kind of equity.
To DVB,
Hmm.
if Regina's listening, Miss Bisco or Bosco,
Bisco Lee, yes.
Okay, Bisco Lee
Yes.
is listening. She needs to let them know, saying that to put it out there, if you are in your third trimester, you cannot fly out to Guam or technically fly anywhere.
I think there are a lot.
Maybe within their own countries and stuff and all that. Maybe the other countries that do allow it, but for them to come here, because then they think that their kid's going to be U.S. and because then they're born here and then they're going to have to stay here because then they're a citizen of another country.
Yeah.
And their kid is supposedly supposed to be a U.S. citizen because he was born on U.S. soil. I think if I'm not mistaken, Trump signed in an executive order on that.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Even with this Compact Free Association, not just the hospital, our prison too also. That's been dragging on for decades too also, and I feel sorry for Fred because he inherited a hornet's nest when he stepped into the role, and you know what? I'm glad he did because then he's trying to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, my suggestion is that if they're not a citizen of the U.S., then their country should pay for their incarceration because then they broke our laws. So then they should educate their people before they leave. Hey, if you go to the U.S., don't get in trouble.
Again, that's negotiating with one country to another country, and we are not a country, so we have no negotiating power. Who speaks for us? Congress speaks for us, not our governor, not our congressman. No one here speaks for us when it comes to negotiating with other countries, and that's a whole nother topic. Ern, I got to run. Frank's on the other line.
All right.
Okay. Thanks, Ern. I appreciate it. Take care.
Alrighty.
All right.
Well, there was one more thing that I wanted to bring up.
Go for it.
Okay. It's about, since our congressperson has no votes, cannot vote.
Right.
He can open his, he can talk about it, he can put it on black and white and everything and all that. Then what's the difference from the governor? You can roll two into one. You can consolidate that.
Consolidate the two roles?
Yes, into one.
Okay.
And have the governor be the representative of Guam, correct? To speak and to write whatever that needs to be said to Congress.
Oh, the governor can do that already.
But then what?
But they don't, but what I'm trying to say is, because we're an unincorporated territory, right? Whether we're a non-voting delegate or a governor or a combined non-voting delegate that is a governor, that doesn't give us any more special powers. We are still...
So then why do we need a congressperson then?
Because you would want somebody still there that can
we have
lobby.
A governor.
So...
That can go there too.
So so we don't pay for the congressman. That's the federal government. The money that goes into the congressional office is not coming out of our tax money. It's not coming out of the general fund.
Then it's a savings on their part because they'll get a 2-for-1. They'll get the head of the island.
Okay.
And they'll have a person that's there that can speak on behalf of the island, whether they vote, that they can vote for it or not.
Okay, that's way above my
on, stuff because then because then they both have no voting powers.
That's above. I haven't even fathomed that, so that's a new thought, and I need to take a minute to chew on that one. But thanks, Ern.
I think if you think about it, you're going to see that it makes sense. Why do you need two people? Why do you need a congressman and a governor?
Well, maybe we'll save money and not have to pay for a governor. We'll let the federal government pay for his or her.
That would be a savings. They're paying the governor.
Right? But don't you want our governor here though? They'll have to spend time.
We have a lieutenant governor,
and then they'll just be the acting governor every time the governor is over in D.C.
Well, then that person is the one that's supposed to know everything what's going on here.
I don't know.
That's why they're in that seat, correct?
I don't know. You can only be in one place at one time. You can't be at two places at one time.
Well, the thing is that if the congressperson cannot vote, they only can talk and write letters. You can hire a high school graduate to do that.
Well, I think there still is, even with the. I think you're pulling my chain. Now, I don't even know if you're joking with me at this point, but I think that there are still the congressman still has a role to play, right? Whether they have a vote or not, they still are important in all of this. I think that they can still make some impact, but in the grand scheme of things, in the reality of it all, they are a non-voting delegate, and so that still needs to be addressed. But still, at the same time, I say there is some importance to that role.
Until that day happens, that they say, hey, Guam, you're at territory, yes, we'll give you a voting status. when it comes to, certain issues and stuff and all that, then until that day happens, then it should be only one person.
Well, I don't agree, but I thank you for your perspective. Thanks, Ern.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All
You
right.
Have a good day.
Take care.
Goodbye.
All right. Frank's on the line. No? Okay. We'll take the break then. 5:39 in the afternoon, Wave 105.
Screenshots can pop. This is Soundbites, and I'm Alan Davidson. A screenshot's a screenshot's a screenshot. Maybe, until you discover CrispShare. It gives your ordinary workaday screenshots vim, vigor, and zing. How? With a whole range of distinctive backgrounds, special effects, and customization features. They can really turn your presentation to something people will be talking about for weeks. There's a whole array of dedicated palettes, gradients, shadows, borders, and all kinds of other handy tools that can put your screenshots steps ahead. And it all happens right in your browser. Nothing leaves your computer, and their site stores nothing. Distinctive, professional-looking screenshots in seconds for you, all ready for your meeting decks and your reports. Get the CrispShare edge at crispshare.com. With Soundbites, I'm Alan Davidson for CBS News.
It's the Guam Autospot Overstock Sell-Off, and our manager is absolutely crazy for dropping these deals. Right now, drive off in a brand new 2025 Eclipse Cross for just $24,995. That's $2,000 off the original price. Plus, check out our high-quality pre-owned vehicles, fully inspected and ready for the road. Get pre-approved online at guamautospot.com or call 478-AUTO to schedule your test drive today. It's the Guam Autospot Overstock Sell-Off, and everything must go.
6 o'clock to 8 o'clock every Friday evening. Join Rand and Jenny Kaufman for The Edge of Heaven, a talk show to take you to the fifth dimension where you find out who you are. What is the purpose of your life? How can your purpose be fulfilled? What motivates you to do what you do? What are you searching for? What keeps you going in your day-to-day life? What is real? Why do you care? Why do you work? Why do you love? Sponsored by Burger King, Jay Goodman, and Asmujao Community School.
At Way 105 FM, we're more than just a station. We're your platform, your voice, your conversation. We're talking about what matters most to you today and in our future. And we want you to be part of it. Got something to say? We're listening. Different opinions? Bring them on. Let's talk, let's debate, let's connect, because every voice counts. Call or WhatsApp us at 671-922-1051. And if that line's busy, hit us up at 922-1052. This is Talk Radio for everyone. This is Wave 105 FM, the Talk of Guam.
Buenas and Hafa Adai, it's Damon Michael, your GDOE PIO. Make sure you tune in every Friday at 10 a.m. for our agency's Educuento series, where we give you the latest and greatest from the Department of Education.
And Hafa Adai, you're tuned into Wave 105 FM on the Brightside with Pauly Suba every weekday from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. And your show, Brightside, is proudly sponsored by Sentinel Security Solution, Guam premier provider of professional security services, Sern Williams. The wet season is on the way, and your roof needs to be ready. Don't wait for the blazing sun or the pounding rain. Get ahead with weather-ready coating. Be smart, be prepared, and ask Sharon Williams. Subway, eat fresh. In just a few clicks, order online at subwaypacific.com for pickup at your convenience or for delivery right at your doorstep. Order online at subwaypacific.com is powered by Good to Go, We Deliver. At Subway, you got to refresh to be fresh. And now it's time for your Real Deal Traffic Report. And your Real Deal Traffic Report is proudly sponsored by Guam Autospot. Schedule a test drive today at Guam Autospot by giving them a call at 671-478-AUTO or check their inventories on the website at guamautospot.com. Guam Autospot 671-478-AUTO. And proudly sponsored by Mobile Oil Guam. Download our app today for exclusive fuel coupons. Visit guam.mobile.com for more details. And now here it is. I have for you your hot spot. Ooh wee, honey. Yes, it looks like if you're in the airport area going down toward Route 1 intersection traffic light right in front of Mobile and Subway. It is hot there, especially if you make that right turn going all the way up to JFK. That's really hot there. Mind you that there's still school in the opening zone there. Be careful for pedestrians. And if we shift gear to Barragata, where it's the near Super Happy Mart, that intersection right there, that is picking up very quick, going up toward Barragata Heights as well. And that is your Real Deal traffic report with your traffic advisory. Construction activities will continue along Route 10 between Route 4 intersection and Payless through to the Route 32 intersection. And now here it is, back into the bright side with Pauly Suba.
Welcome back, Biba Webis, 5:45 in the afternoon. It's the bright side here on Wave 105. Okay, so we only have about 15 minutes to go, right? There is a release from the governor's office. This came in about like 5:20 in the afternoon. The office of the governor welcomes the passage of legislation appropriating $40 million to or from the government of Guam General Fund to address GMH and their most urgent needs, including critical vendor payables and emergency repairs. The governor said this action is a positive and necessary step. It follows weeks of repeated calls to special session and, importantly, the powerful presence of GMH employees at the Guam Congress building. Their courage moved this measure forward. I thank the senators for answering my call for action and passing this measure with the urgency an emergency demands. The administration emphasized three key points: partial relief, not full resolution. The $40 million appropriation helps stabilize immediate pressures, but it only partially addresses GMHA's total financial shortfall. Tools still needed to manage through an emergency. While this funding is essential, it does not provide the broader legal and operational tools the administration has requested to manage GMH through an emergency, tools that require additional legislative action. Breathing room, not a rescue. These measures do not save GMH. The governor said they buy us some time to breathe. Time we intend to use to protect patient safety, pay critical vendors, and keep essential services running while we pursue long-term solutions. As with any legislation, the measure, as amended, will undergo comprehensive review upon transmittal before the governor takes final action. So I was hoping, I don't know. I wouldn't say I was hoping, but I was assuming that this release here was her saying she is signing this ASAP. And so the people of Guam expect continued momentum. Let's pair this funding with policy tools needed to manage the emergency responsibly and keep working towards a modern, reliable hospital our family deserves. And so seeing that it has been amended, it will undergo comprehensive review upon transmittal before the governor takes final action, before she signs it into law. Ben's on the line, 5:48 in the afternoon. Hafa Adai, Ben.
So you're talking about just the delivery alone. So how much you say? $150,000?
$250,000.
$250,000?
Yes.
Now I know what I want to be. I want to be a doctor. Hey, Tony.
I'm listening.
Brief. I'll charge you $50,000, man. That's highway robbery. That can buy you a house. Who's coming up with these? The one we're working with in our office. We got a beautiful thing.
So she says this as an example, right? We don't know the details. How long was she in the hospital? How long was her baby in the hospital? How long were both of them in the hospital? We
Yeah,
don't
but
know all the details. But yes, I agree. And Edward Byrne no, I agree. And Edward Byrne also agrees that $250,000 nobody can afford that.
I've been there. You've been there before. What are you using? Gold and titanium steel and silver? That just doesn't make sense. No matter what, it doesn't make sense. 250,000, that's really a house. Don't have any business moving down over. You can't have any more kids made just once every 10 years. Because if that's the case, we're going to need more than the hospital, man. I want to buy me a truck and be a traveling, and I'm going to make that baby, and I'm only going to charge you. They're charging $450. I'll just charge you $100,000. That's all. Push. Don't fuck beef. Come on, man. That's not right. Anyway, Pauly, hey, you can't run, but you can't hide, and I'll talk to you another time.
Okay. Well, which one is it? I can't run or I can't hide? I thought it's I can run, but I can't hide.
Pauly, and I heard
both of them. Okay. I can't run. You're right. I can't. And I also suck at hiding, too. So you are correct. I can't run, and I also can't hide. Thanks, Ben. He actually is correct on that part. Okay, so let me see here. 550. There's more from the governor. Additionally, the governor thanks and appreciates the legislature for moving quickly to address the immediate needs of her hospital. She also extends her gratitude to the hospital employees for actively engaging with their senators and making their voices heard. This unified effort shows that when our branches of government work hand in hand with the people we serve, we can deliver results that matter. Addressing the immediate need for the hospital is just one example of how collaboration leads to real progress for our island. But Ben is correct, too. I mean, if I got a $250,000 bill, I'm going, I'm crying. Nope, not paying for this. This did not happen. No, I didn't even get lunch today. They didn't bring me my special Jell-O, so cross that part out. There's no toilet paper in the restroom. Nope, not. I will get it down. I guarantee that bill is going down. But this is what I will say. Healthcare is expensive. Like, no joke. Joking aside, I've seen my bill. I've seen my family members' bills when they are in hospital care. It is ridiculously expensive. And thank goodness for health insurance. However, I think that does need to get looked at. But with all of that said, when you listen to the issues again that GMH is facing as a public hospital, how expensive it is to run that hospital, more conversation needs to be had on a public-private partnership, like Senator Jesse Lujan had mentioned. They may not agree on a money management problem. Lillian Paris Posadas doesn't agree. But they need to have that conversation. With that said, though, knowing that healthcare is expensive, what does healthcare look like without a public hospital in Guam? What does that look like? I would say far worse than what we got right now. Far worse. You think people are rushing out to leave for more opportunity elsewhere. Without a public hospital, even more so. Even more. Maybe government shouldn't be in the public hospital business. But what does that look like if the government of Guam does not provide this service to its people? So there has to be that conversation if that's where we're going to go, public-private partnership. But the goal should be health care that we can live with, not be indebted to. That should be the goal. This is the road that we're on. Health care that we can live with. And when we start falling off and hitting the rails or there's no guardrail, then we need to bring it right back to health care that we can live with. But I just want to share too, right? Because Senator Vince Borja, Senator Sabrina Salas Mantanani said that they are here to help. And I believe them when they say this. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. GMHA and GDOE are the two largest agencies out there, right? And they're the ones that are always, there's always a problem with funding. And it is easy to say, they're the problem. The people in GDOE, you're the problem. The people at GMH, you're the problem. But the people are not the same people. So I don't think it's the people. Lillian Posadas was the GMHA administrator in 2019, not in 1995. But it's the same problem. So I would just be careful when we're saying it's a money management issue, because now you're saying it's the people. I would just be careful with that. Because, again, at the Guam Chamber of Commerce, Senator Chris Duenas was speaking to the chamber. And he said it's not a money problem. He said it's a management problem. And he said unclear lapses in basic accounting control. He called them out on returning federal funds instead of using them. He said, we must stop the cycle of returning federal education dollars and rely on local funds as a backstop. We've returned millions to the federal government, and that's unacceptable. We need better management. It's not sustainable, and it's not acceptable. On GMHA, he said, runaway growth in general fund support. In the last 7 years, the hospital has gone from general fund appropriation, around $3 million, to now with subsidies and additional supplemental budgets to close to $65 million and asking for more. They came to us for $100 million on general fund revenues, which would basically almost equal what they take in terms of their fees for services. He's not lying, but he is definitely money management problems. We believe those deficiencies exist greatly at the hospital as well. When he's also talking about not just GDOE, but GMH. And we look forward to their discussions on new management. What he wants done for GMH, stop patchwork fixes, build a plan. We must move beyond patchwork fixes and towards a comprehensive plan for healthcare delivery that meets the needs of our people with dignity and efficiency. Ongoing oversight, funding is not a blank check. Performance metrics, transparency, and a true culture of stewardship, not entitlement. And so, one thing that I will agree with Senator Chris Duenas is he's saying they're going to have monthly oversight meetings on healthcare, education, and public safety. And Transparency is everything. Put it all on the table. And hopefully they're not markup sessions where we can't watch all together as one community. 5:58 in the afternoon. We'll take the break. No, we're getting out of here. It's already 6 p.m., Nene.
Pauly.
Time is just flying by. I thought we were going into the 5 o'clock hour. No, we are done.
I was about to say, you still want to stay?
No, thank you. We are going to get out of here. Mornings with Patty tomorrow. Don't forget, at 6 a.m. We'll see you there, right? Rolling with Dice. It's Friday, so you've got Educuentos, right? Damon Michael Borja will be in from 10 to 11 for Educuentos. And then the Guam guy has his podcast broadcasting right here every Friday from 11 to 12. National programming gets you right back to another Brightside on a Friday. And so we'll see you then. Everybody get home safe. Be kind to each other. Absolutely. Now more than ever, we just need to be kind to each other, whether we agree, disagree. We're not changing anybody else's minds. I'm not here to change your mind. But I respect your perspective. I may not agree, but I appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank you so very much. Adios, KGUM FM in Dededo, Guam.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Cammie McCormick. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk has been shot and killed at a Utah college event.
Maybe 30 seconds after the shot, people started yelling, "Run." I crouched down, and I just took off running.
University police have been going building to building, evacuating people. They don't have a suspect in custody. And Anna Schechter reports witnesses described lax security.
His own personal security team was there with him, but we don't know what kind of a periphery they had secured. Eyewitnesses told us there were no metal detectors, that they just walked onto the field, essentially, to watch somebody come up and debate Kirk, which was the point of the event. So very minimal security.
President Trump confirmed Kirk's death, as Linda Kenyon reports.
In a post on social media, President Trump wrote, quote, "The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead." The president went on to say, quote, "He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he is no longer with us."
Correspondent Weijia Jiang reports there have been many tears at the White House from staffers.
This wasn't just a trusted advisor to President Trump. This